Wu Xiao turned her gaze away without the slightest bit of interest from Chai Ling's words. On the horizon, the palace hidden in the clouds appeared in front of them. That place, Wu Xiao muttered, and like Su Xing, she showed an interested expression. It has nothing to do with this palace's star beast. This palace certainly does not wish to bring trouble to herself. Chai Ling had made her position clear in advance. To have her go to that place was an idea she would not accept, without exception. That place has some activity. Perhaps there will be trouble. Wu Xiao's eyes slightly narrowed and she sneered. Chai Ling could also tell that the air from that place was not too likable, but she was not very concerned. Speaking of trouble, the noble star honestly did not feel that anyone could give any trouble to the 3-star star weapon harm star. Chai Ling looked with a seeming smile at the fortunate man sleeping on Wu Xiao's lap, speaking in ridicule. That said, Xiao, how much longer do you plan on letting Su Xing lay upon your lap? A black wind billowed cold and dismal, drawing apart the dense fog. The corners of the palace skirt shattered and became snowflakes. Gong Kaiwei promptly leaned, a slight graveness appearing on her face. Hm. Li Longkue, the killer star, swung the bereaved immortal lofty slaughter double axe, and a black light forced aside the twisting tracing snow sword. Several dozen ice spirit snow soul flying swords endlessly attacked, but to Li Longkue, these hardly posed a threat. Li Longkue screamed, slashing. Song Tsaiwei's escape technique dodged. Instantly, she landed 500 meters away. Princess! Zhu Sha floated back in retreat, the 5 elements weather banner hastily blocking Li Longkue's incursive attack. Gong Kaiwei panted. The killer star in front of her was somewhat frightening. The injuries her attacks gave Li Longkue apparently had been completely ignored. The tall woman before her raised that bereaved immortal lofty slaughter without leaving any room to maneuver. She completely ignored all of Gong Tsaiwei's attacks, as if she was a demon of slaughter. Fiend Star! This was a fiend star not just in name but also in reality. Gong Kaiwei slowly breathed, forgetting the fear that wanted to grow in her heart. When she spotted the Guanghan Moon Palace, Gong Kaiwei had originally thought of giving it to the Kasha Rabbit, 2-star beast that Zhu Sha was searching for. How could she have known that she would run into the killer star Black Whirlwind Li Kuei, who was also paying a visit? Furthermore, she was a killer star who had obtained the star beast biting Azura. 3. Incapable of using magic weapons, Gong Kaiwei honestly was at wit's end against Li Kuei. Still you do not run? I will have you sliced into 10,000 pieces. Li Longkue shouted, fast as flying. Suddenly, Li Longkue stopped and lifted her head. Gong Kaiwei and Zhu Sha lifted their heads at the same time. The bottom of the Guanghan Moon Palace raised a magic cloud of ice and frost, letting down a galaxy. On this river of stars was a divine horse, which stepped on stars and frost, with a mane seemingly of fire. A woman of general-like sternness straddled the horse. Her facial features were dignified, yet she was calm. Even if they were separated by a distance, that overbearing mountain-like aggression made them unable to draw breath. This general was wondering why it was so noisy. As it turns out, there are sisters in a star duel. The woman spoke, laughing aloud. Gong Kaiwei, Zhu Sha and Li Longkue coldly glared at her. The treasure horse landed, and the woman on the horse swept her gaze over them. Li Kuei, Zhu Wu, it has truly been a long time. Courting death. Li Longkue no longer cared for Gong Kaiwei. With a leap, the Black Whirlwind attacked. The girl wore a jade necklace and golden armor. Laughing, her hand fell, and a heavy armament appeared in her hand. With a clang, the girl riding the horse easily knocked Li Kuei back. Good, allow this general to properly lecture you disobedient little sisters. The girl slightly smiled. Seeing that weapon, this time with Li Longkue included, the 3 were very surprised. 4-star destined weapon. This Gong did not expect to surprisingly encounter you. Gong Tsaiwei's cold as ice and frost face showed a graveness. Seeing that outstanding 4-star destined weapon, the immortal hero princess' inner tension was fully revealed. At the current phase, she completely was not a foe against a 4-star destined weapon. The weapon naturally was Ing. Above is the Guanghan Moon Palace. This general has looked forward to this for a very long time. The girl said. A mighty pressure matching a 4-star destined weapon pounced towards them. Gong Kaiwei, Zhu Sha and Li Longkui cooperated with much tacit understanding, aiming their hostility at Inge. Inge quickly dispatched them. That place apparently has a very interesting thing. A gentle male voice came from behind the girl. The great Saint Starkiller clad in black magnificent clothing stared at something 1,000 meters away, a twinkling gold light flashing in his eyes. This general obeys your orders. Inger smiled. Gong Kaiwei, Zhu Sha and Li Longkui instantly launched an offensive. Their objective was not just anyone, but great Saint Starkiller. To confront a sister with a 4-star destined weapon, even fiend Star Li Kuei would choose to flee. The 5 elements weather banner's array first trapped Inger. Gong Zaiwei's Ice Soul Frost Spirit flying swords directly stabbed Great Saint Starkiller, and Li Longkui used Wild Dance of Demons and Gods. But this overwhelming thing was completely far from enough. The treasure horse whinnied, breaking through Zhu Sha's array, galloping fast as the wind and instantly intercepting Li Longkui from the front. The star weapon in her hand rose and fell, ending the wild dance of demons and gods. The chilly cold wind came chopping right in her face. Several hundred strands of Li Longkui's messy black hair was severed by the 4-star destined weapon's sharp edge. The killer's star bared her teeth, the double axe resisting the attack. Inger smiled, and the Li Longkui with the pressure of 1,000 caddies practically was about to fall to a knee. Li Longkui's face was pale. She took a step back, raised a hand, and her evil smiting writ activated, leaving this place completely without the slightest hesitation. The entire process took place in the blink of an eye. Killer star Li Longkui was forced out of evil smiting hall. Gong Zaiwei's attack did not obtain any battle results. Great Saint Starkiller's heavenly cycle-changing sword was more powerful than she had thought. Sensing that Li Longkui had been defeated face-to-face, Gong Kaiwei was without the slightest hesitation. Zhu Sha, leave. But compared to Li Longkui's circumstances, the scene Gong Kaiwei confronted was somewhat terrible. She still had not reached the time when she could leave evil smiting hall. Fleeing? Great Saint Starkiller smiled. As it turned out, you still cannot leave evil smiting hall? Then you are dead for certain, immortal hero princess. Seeing Gong Kaiwei currently running towards that heaven-raising golden light, Great Saint Starkiller coldly laughed. Following Inge, he chased after them. Wifey, did I miss anything? Su Xing stretched himself and rose. He slept exceptionally well. Must you so shamelessly address your servant? Wu Xiao was unhappy. Nonsense, habit becomes nature. Emotions must begin their cultivation from the most insignificant details. Of course, Su Xing did not dare say this aloud. He laughed. All right then, wife. Wu Xiao was expressionless. If you like it, then I'll address you as wife from now on. Su Xing winked. Wu Xiao scowled. Your servant certainly does not have an unfaithful and empty lord husband like you. He could tell the harm star was exceptionally dissatisfied. Su Xing rolled his eyes at her. Just consider it for Lin Yingmei. Su Xing used her shoulder to help himself up. Our relationship improving a bit won't make things difficult for her, isn't that right? Wu Xiao's white finger flicked away that perverse hand. Your servant knows you have a tongue like reeds and does not wish to engage in chatter with you. However, Wu Xiao also conceded that Su Xing's words were somewhat logical. Compared to Su Xing, who concerned Wu Xiao more was Ing. Wife, you are but a bit hypocritical. Su Xing smiled. But I am considerably earnest. It seems I'd better call Xiao wife in the future. Su Xing pondered. Wu Xiao knew that the shameless man in front of her was making her show her true feelings, to make her personally admit the relationship between them. Although such a relationship was somewhat something scoff at in Wu Xiao's eyes, of course Wu Xiao still had another sort of answer, which was to use the noble frost demonic lotus to cut him into pieces to feed to dogs. You had best still call your servant, wifey. Wu Xiao already lost the interest to argue. Whoever made her commit that previous folly of calling out Lord Husband had made this man take a mile when she gave an inch. For this kind of detail, Wu Xiao did not wish to bicker any longer. No one else knew what wifey meant anyways. In addition, Wu Xiao had found that she herself was not truly disgusted with such an address, but compared to the annoying Su Xing's shouts, as if he was merrily poking fun at her, this made Wu Xiao somewhat upset. Now seeing Su Xing was truly wishing for it, Wu Xiao felt whatever was fine for him. If the young married couple has finished flirting, then should you not be helping this palace capture her star beast? Chai Ling's mocking voice came from afar. Chai Ling, what nonsense do you speak of? Wu Xiao's face was slightly red as she shot a glance at her. This palace certainly is not fond of being coy or maudlin. Since you have been called as such, then admit it. These repeated changes, this palace actually somewhat cannot look upon Xiao. Chai Ling seemingly smiled yet did not. Wu Xiao had been left speechless by her words, and her ears burned with fire. Chai Ling's words reached Su Xing's heart, but he did not want to make things too embarrassing for Wu Xiao. He then shifted the topic and asked, "Has your star beast come?" "It has come." Chai Ling pointed. A snow-white figure had appeared on the gold mountain and was currently nibbling on the gold. Staring, that unexpectedly was a cat. With one gold and one dark heterochromatic pupils, for that was soft, a tail like a flexible and slippery snake easily moving about, it looked completely like an ordinary cat. Chai Ling, this is your star beast? Anyway, Su Xing looked at it, this was just a house cat. Riches and honor Persia, this palace had once heard of it but never expected to actually see it. This palace takes it very much to her liking. Chai Ling nodded. 5. This must be the three-eyes wealth-inviting beast. 6. Wu Xiao said. Xiao, you know of it. Chai Ling smiled. The riches and honor Persia was also called the three-eyes wealth-inviting beast, a star beast that could bring good fortune. Using gold as food, it ate the treasures in the world. Legends said that it could open a third eye that could dissolve the treasures of the world. However, Chai Ling actually did not fancy its abilities. Placing herself outside the star duels, whatever happened was fleeting nature of the heavens. What Chai Ling took to her liking actually was the three-eyed wealth-inviting beast's figure. Delicate and adorable, this honestly was the optimum choice for a house pet. She had the feeling to hug this little cat in her bosom, and thus Chai Ling was very moved. Let alone that this was her star beast, this feeling of satisfaction was simply something she never had before. Su Xing was speechless. As it turned out, Chai Ling had faced such enormous risk just to come find a house cat to act as a pet. She truly did very much have the style of a queen. Then what should we do right now? Su Xing asked her. The riches and honor Persia currently lay atop the gold mountain that Chai Ling piled up, eating to its heart's content. For the time being, it was not easy to act. Wait until she is full. This palace can then capture it. Chai Ling chuckled. Money can open heaven, not just in name but in reality. Su Xing sighed. This perhaps was the easiest time he had coming to Evil's Smiting Hall to capture a star beast. A queen was a queen, and her star beast was docile. But before that, it seems trouble has come. Chai Ling's gaze suddenly sunk as she stared into the horizon. The expressions of Su Xing and Wu Xiao turned serious at the same time. A powerful pressure was currently heading towards this place. The atmosphere was somewhat not too likable. That intimidating aura shooting straight for them unexpectedly pierced through 100 li, like an enormous stone pressing on their chests. Some star beast or martial general. Su Xing's wrist flipped, calling forth, heaven tearing. The flying swords floated together, their sword tips like revealed dragon fangs. In actuality, when Su Xing was sleeping, Chai Ling's devil-pushing millstone had already attracted many spying star masters and star maidens, but upon seeing Wu Xiao and her white and black unicorn tiger, they tactfully made a greeting. The dreaming Su Xing missed many opportunities to know new star maidens. The white and black unicorn tiger bared its fangs, arched its body and assumed the pose of pouncing on prey. Wu Xiao was still calm as before, only coldly watching. Chai Ling actually was unconcerned, for her mind was entirely hung upon the riches and honor Persia. In her eyes, one was the famous wanderer Wu Song, unrivaled in close combat, and the other was a man who possessed 7 sisters and martial force that would not lose out to even a star general. In evil smiting hall, those that could prevail over this adulterous couple probably did not exist. Chai Ling's thoughts once again validated that destiny's greatest joke often was running opposite of what you thought. An hour later, that biting cold sound finally grew increasingly close. A figure also gradually became distinct. The one being chased was a girl with clothes that surpassed snow, and amidst her dodges, she fully displayed a sword chant that would make anyone feel impressed. Several dozen black ice flying swords like cold smoke dispersed, interweaved and formed a sword array, one that no ordinary person could resist. Gong Kai Wei. Su Xing glanced back at the girl, amazed. Surprisingly, it was her. A heavenly river of starlight pounced over to cover Gong Kai Wei. The cold smoke dispersed, and another young girl riding upon a divine steed came slashing. He saw that Gong Kai Wei was about to be a beauty that passed away. Su Xing no longer could sit and wait. In Wu Xiao's surprised expression, he lunged over, clasped his hands together and concentrated Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder into the size of cotton wads and protected Gong Kai Wei. That abnormal flying sword of randomly and disappearing stars did not easily penetrate the Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder net. Lengya cried, blue light flashing. Upon touching the blue light, the opposing flying swords shook as if they had met with their nemesis. Su Xing arrived at Gong Caiwei's side. The girl's face drained of color also was surprised. He grabbed her, and at this moment, a chilly wind poured into his body. A tremendous power that Su Xing had never felt before was at his back like a knife's tip. So powerful! Heaven Tearing screamed and tore forward. The glaring gold light seemed to be extinguished by the cold wind. Su Xing's chest bubbled with blood and qi, and he violently vomited blood. Possessing the life cast link with Heaven Tearing, Su Xing was aghast to sense the opponent's slash unexpectedly cut the unstoppable Heaven Tearing to pieces. Without the form of a sword, that power was too frightening. The second attack nearly carried out without stopping. Directly slashing at Su Xing and Gong Caiwei's waists, the opponent's attack was considerably firm, its form like running water. Su Xing had no choice and could only call for Heaven Tearing to defend again. This time, he continuously spat several mouthfuls of blood, dyeing the snow-white palace dress over Gong Caiwei's whole body with a great stain of red. When the girl saw, she formed a hand seal, releasing several dozen rays of cold light, using a cold smoke barrier ability. A soft laugh disdainfully replied. A whinny resounded. The cold smoke shattered, and an absolutely unique divine steed stepped out. The barrier was ground to pieces. Su Xing finally could clearly see the appearance of the girl on the horse. With dignified features, she was a general-like beauty. The polearm in her hand flashed. Su Xing could not see it clearly, but the narrowly bound ice cold on the weapon directly entered his soul. There was a sort of oppressive feeling that made them unable to budge. What was the background of this woman? Su Xing was inwardly shocked. He had already planned to brave and endure a cut to use the chaotic tail escape. Hey! A soft shout that would make people feel warm at this time came over. A cool and elegant back blocked in front of Su Xing white clothes and fluttering black hair formed a clear contrast. Wu Xiao's sword blacked, and that mighty woman gasped in surprise. The two traded blows. A powerful air current shook Su Xing and Gong Caiwei apart. Su Xing then shielded Gong Caiwei. Heaven Tearing and Langya were recalled. Upon seeing Heaven Tearing, Su Xing's heart ached. The body of the dragon scale sword had cracked in numerous places, its spiritual power greatly debilitated. Clearly, it would need to be refined again. Apologies. Seeing that the Heaven Tearing flying swords had been broken, Gong Caiwei apologetically spoke. Su Xing helplessly stowed Heaven Tearing and shook his head. Langya turned around, and his gaze once again returned to his opponent. A white shadow landed light as a feather in front of Su Xing. Wu Xiao's expression was even more ice-cold. At this time, the little whirlwind Chai Ling could not help but walk over, astonished to see the newcomers. A golden mill tray. Could it be this one is so fortunate as to have encountered the wealthy official, noble star Little Whirlwind? A man's voice was penetrating. The black-robed man's riding sword was above, smiling sinisterly at everything he saw before him. Great Saint Starkiller. Su Xing's gaze sunk. Heavenly Gem Valley was vividly still on his mind. Surprisingly, he would encounter such a thorny opponent. Su Xing had used a change appearance pill at Heavenly Gem Valley, so Great Saint Starkiller had not seen Su Xing then at all. His evil and penetrating gaze scanned everyone present, being attracted by the graceful Chai Ling and the cool and forceful Wu Xiyo. To be able to emit such a noble queenly air, clearly her background was not small. And that noble frost demonic lotus left Great Saint Starkiller feeling even more endlessly shocked. Wu Song. To unexpectedly encounter Wu Song, Inge, there was a great harvest inside Evil Smiting Hall, as expected. Great Saint Starkiller, rather than be fearful, contrarily smiled, which made Su Xing smell danger. To be able to make the Great Saint Starkiller so self-confident, there was only one truth: he had a star general. Little sister Wu Song, this general truly has found what she has been looking for. Smoke and dust scattered everywhere, filling the skies as the divine steed rushed forth. This horse had 4 shiny eyes, half made of fire, the other of frost, its whole body a blood red like flame, but it nevertheless emitted an exceptionally cold air. Its mane billowed, faintly releasing wind with each step. The Guanghan red hair. 2. Chai Ling surprisingly drew in a breath. This is that Guanghan red hair? Su Xing was taken aback. Other than the star beasts of his beauties, Su Xing was not at all clear on the star beasts of the other star maidens, but he had also heard Wu Xinjie mentioned before the star beast list. 3. The star duels were now Liangshan continent's most grand event. The great deal of materials pertaining to the star duels would grow and grow, and the star beast list was one among them. This list principally introduced the rankings of the star beasts previous star maidens had in previous star duels. As everyone knew, star generals only were considered complete star generals upon obtaining a star beast. Besides star beasts being able to help with overall improvements in some area of a star general's every ability, the star beast mounts of the martial generals among them could hold an even greater advantage in mounted combat. In previous star beasts lists, the Guanghan red hair could be ranked as a third-place existence. It was a pity that the Guanghan red hair was extremely difficult to manage. It was just like a golden qilin, and only a certain few star generals could capture it. There was only one master that could capture the Guanghan red hair. The face of the woman straddling the Guanghan red hair wore a smile. Her appearance flourished with aggression, her whole body clad in golden armor. Her hand clutched a purple-colored 9-revolution coiling dragon broadsword. The blade's tip was keen, with a translucence that made people cold. This blade was known as the Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade. 5. An absolutely domineering star general. The ranked 5th brave star, Great Blade, Guan Sheng. 6. Su Xing shivered. Without hesitation, he flipped out the birth treasure outline. Star position, Brave Star Star name, Guan Xing nickname, Great Blade true name, Guan Ying rank, 5th star weapon, Purple Brilliant Slaying Moon Blade, 4 star. 7. Star Beast, Guanghan red hair, 10th rank, realm, matchless 5th stage innate skill, the unrivaled, 8, 5 elements, Earth yellow rank special move, Azure Dragon / 9, Dark rank special move, Total Annihilation, 10 current status, Contractor / Great Saint Starkiller detailed materials. Matchless 5th stage, 4 star destined weapon. The data that appeared in front of Su Xing made his expression turn shocked. In astonishment, he looked at the purple brilliant slaying moon blade in brave star Guan Sheng's hand. For fairy-like circulated on the blade, the quiet current emitting an intimidating air that would make anyone palpitate. No wonder Heaven Tearing could be damaged so severely in 2 strikes. If it was a 4-star destined weapon, even Su Xing's current life-cast flying swords were incapable of contending against it. A 4-star destined weapon had unexpectedly appeared, and it unexpectedly was the brave star Great Blade Guan Sheng who was number 1 in mounted combat. Su Xing's scalp felt numb, for things had turned grave. Chai Ling's smile had already vanished, and she used the golden thread feather fan to cover her inner shock, yet her eyes showed deep fear. The brave star Guansheng, who had obtained the Guanghan red hair, also had a 4-star destined weapon in hand. At the current phase, she was simply unrivaled. Just where did this man pop out from? To unexpectedly have a relationship so intimate with Wu Song? Guang Ying straddled the Guanghan red hair, posing a question. That flying sword was forged with evil-suppressing gem bamboo? It seems his background is not small. Great Saint Starkiller faintly said. What Great Saint Starkiller cultivated was the netherworld's devil arts. The heavenly cycle-changing holy sword was added with a demonic element, and in the clash with Su Xing's flying swords just now, his supreme sword chant had been suppressed to the point that he required far greater energy than normal to control the flying swords. Clearly, they had met with their nemesis. Great Saint Starkiller would never think that these 12 Langya were forged from that 10,000-year evil-suppressing gem bamboo. His gaze fell onto Chai Ling, and his pupils brimmed with a severe aggression. It seems certain that you are noble Star Chai Jin? If you have her assistance, and Wu Song is present, your evil-suppressing gem bamboo flying swords tell all. Great Saint Starkiller muttered. Having faced some people, the feeling that Great Saint Starkiller and Guaning gave was an overbearing one, a completely contemptuous manner. Even when they met with the Star General who had succeeded the previous Overlord Wu Song, they still had a sort of disdainful tone. And this pride originated from her own incredible power. Just the advantage of a 4-star destined weapon was enough to pressure people into being unable to draw breath. Kaiwei, can you still fight? The Gong Kaiwei in Su Xing's bosom broke free of his embrace. Her face was pale, and Star General resourceful strategist Zhu Sha was nowhere to be seen. Su Xing feared that she had been killed off into the star nest, however. For the immortal hero princess to be able to run for so long from Great Saint Starkiller made Su Xing inwardly impressed. Having not seen each other in a long time, Gong Kaiwei was not someone to underestimate. Gong Caiwei's flying swords already were incapable of further combat, and she could barely stand. Running into Su Xing was somewhat confusing, yet she did not say much. Her gaze returned to Great Saint Starkiller. Kill him. Gong Kaiwei surreptitiously used sound transmission. Su Xing slyly nodded his head. To defeat Guan Ying, the only thing he could do was to defeat her star master, Great Saint Starkiller. However, he was the Netherworld's #1 star master, the Great Saint Starkiller whose star energy had already reached the peak of galaxy stage. To take any advantage was easier said than done. That time in Heavenly Gem Valley, Su Xing also knew that the Great Saint Starkiller in front of him was a ruthless character. Guansheng, you unexpectedly would sign a contract with a man from the Netherworld. You have disgraced your reputation and dignity. Wu Xiao was neither friendly nor angry, not showing the least bit of fear. The words little sister speaks truly are a joke. How can you differentiate between good and evil in the star duels? Thanks to young master's star energy, this general has finally broken through the shackles of star energy. Guan Ying smiled and said, Now that Guansheng is here, Wu Song, do you dare battle? Let your horse come here then. Wu Xiao sneered. Now that Guansheng is here, Wu Song, do you dare battle? Brave Star Guan Ying straightforwardly smiled. The fame of the previous Wu Song, Star Duel Overlord, shook the entire world. In her own capacity as the #1 in mounted battles, her martial force was similarly did not lose out to top-notch martial generals like Lu Junyi. Guan Ying also was eager to give Wu Xiao a try, for she raised the intent to challenge her. In the previous star duels, the brave star was always a not-so-subtle trophy, and for that reason in this generation, Guan Ying also put down the so-called dignity of a top-notch martial general, no longer bothering about the so-called good or evil of the Netherworld. And no wonder, for the star duels inherently disregarded good and evil. They cared only for life and death. The so-called good and bad was nothing more than a hypocritical mask to deceive herself. Previous Guanshengs that took orders with matchless loyalty and bravery nevertheless suffered many tragedies. It was this mistake that Guan Ying would no longer repeat. Not only did Guan Ying find a talented and outstanding star master in the Netherworld, she even had the assistance of the #1 Devil Star Palace. Now was only the third phase evil smiting hall, yet Guansheng's current position practically could be said to be the peak of the successive generations of star duels, a realm that no one could reach. 4-star purple brilliant moon slashing blade, matchless 5th stage, the number 3-star beast Mount Guanghan red hair. Guang Ying nearly held an advantage over Wu Xiao in every aspect. Except for one. Calmness. Facing the standing Guan Ying, Wu Xiao's calm was somewhat frightening. Those eyes made Guan Ying somewhat dissatisfied, and she even felt danger. "Let your horse come here then." Wu Xiao sneered. The white and black unicorn tiger roared. The harm star straddled it, the noble frost demonic lotus black light and snow followed the clarity of its master's thoughts. Pure light reflected upon Wu Xiao's face, a frighteningly beautiful sight. The battles of first-rate star generals required no more chatter. The Guanghan red hair was flanked by rolling clouds of frost and raging flames. Star General spurred Star Beast into a charge. Oftentimes, the first strike was enough to be fatal. Wu Xiao was cool as ice and frost, instantly forging ahead. The white and black unicorn tiger bared its fangs and claws, its aggressiveness similarly ferocious. The purple brilliant moon slashing blade and noble frost demonic lotus clashed with clear and crisp jolts. Just the sound alone of the impacts was enough to be ear-piercing. "Wu Song, you must not make this general disappointed." The Guan Ying sitting upon the Guanghan red hair shouted, her purple brilliant moon slashing blade making a reverse slash, executing an attack that was like Mount Tai. Air that seemingly had the pressure of 1,000 caddies whooshed. Oomph! A cold sword tip drew a streak of absolute cold. The 4-star purple brilliant moon slashing blade and the 3-star noble frost demonic lotus once again crossed. Guang Ying's hand lowered, and Wu Xiao immediately felt her hand go numb. The double-ended sword nearly flew out of her hand, for Guan Ying's strength completely was unprecedented to Wu Xiao. The white and black unicorn tiger scratched at the Guanghan red hair, wanting to use its sharp claws to help its master. The Guanghan red hair was the high third-ranked star beast. Those 4 eyes emitted frosty clouds and raging flames that intercepted the white and black unicorn tiger's attack. Its hooves kicked, forcing the white and black unicorn tiger back several steps. Witness the crescent moon blade technique. Guan Ying again slashed, brandishing a dazzling blade chi. Noble frost demonic lotus forged onwards. The sword made an unexpected move, blocked again and again. In the time of the several exchanges between Wu Xiao and Guan Ying's star beasts, on the other side, Su Xing had made a move against Great Saint Starkiller. Langya split off into countless glistening blue lights, their sparkling clearly overlaid with a bamboo sword. The evil-suppressing clear light spilled forth in a flood, forcing Great Saint Starkiller to be continuously astonished. This arrogant number 1-star master of the Netherworld did not dare touch it directly. Controlling the heavenly cycle-changing holy sword, he barely resisted. "You contracted the noble star? Truly strange, unexpectedly there would be a star master like you." Great Saint Starkiller's star energy was at the peak of galaxy, and Su Xing, who had yet to refine Wu Xingjia's star energy, was merely galaxy middle stage. Great Saint Starkiller actually could rely on his own strengths and use the heavenly cycle-changing holy swords to block Su Xing's Langya. Great Saint Starkiller was secure in the knowledge that he had backing, remaining calm despite the situation, not minding Su Xing and the others at all. In his perspective, with brave Star Guan Ying here, the few people in front of him were merely among the dead. Su Xing continuously used several abilities, the Purple Cloud True Star and Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder, not leaving any room. Great Saint Starkiller gasped, for he noticed this Purple Thunder was somewhat familiar. "Just what is your relationship with the Purple Thunder monster?" Su Xing wrinkled his brow, for he saw that Langya had been stopped. Glancing out the corner of his eye, he saw that Wu Xiao's situation was considerably far from good. Every second longer he delayed was another variable added. Su Xing certainly did not want this, but evil smiting hall's forbid dance made Su Xing's prehistoric spirit treasures incapable of use. This undoubtedly left him without a trump card. Wu Xiao's side was somewhat troubled. Su Xing spied a cool and elegant figure. Fortunately, Wu Xiao at this time fighting against Guan Ying had drawn away the woman's line of sight. Her careless expression was stirring. There was a sort of telepathic feeling that shot through his heart. It seemed he could only do this. Su Xing bit open the tip of his tongue, spraying out blood that concentrated into the blaze refining nine hells saber. The sword flew about of its own accord, and the will-o'-the-wisps upon the blade gathered and slashed at Great Saint Starkiller. Great Saint Starkiller put two fingers together. Several bolts of black light like specters shot over to block Su Xing. This took place in only several seconds, and the Great Saint Starkiller relied on these few seconds to avoid the sneak attack. The blaze refining nine hells saber? This is the Deviant Star's star weapon? You unexpectedly could dispatch the red-haired devil? Great Saint Starkiller looked at that nine-ringed ghost saber, showing a surprised expression. The Star Master that contracted the noble star was capable of getting rid of the red-haired devil? Great Saint Starkiller did not dare believe this fact. It must have been achieved by relying on Wu Song. His thoughts passing by, Great Saint Starkiller also bit open his tongue the first moment he could, and in his hand also appeared a star weapon, the three-star wind-slashing dragon fong. When he put it in his hand, the wind-slashing dragon fong slashed out hundreds of streaks of dragon fong saber chi. The saber chi spread out, enveloping the area. This was the forest emerging dragon Zhou Yuan's yellow rank technique. Wind-slaying slash. Due to Great Saint Starkiller killing Zhou Yuan when she was at 3-star, it was inevitable that by inheriting the star weapon, he inherited the forest emerging dragon's everything. Although Su Xing's blaze refining nine hells saber was a heavenly star's weapon, when he had obtained it, it was not even 1 star. Relying on his powerful battle talents, Su Xing raised the blaze refining nine hells infernal saber and barely resisted. Bringing about your own destruction, Great Saint Starkiller brought down slash after slash. This time, he did not completely hesitate to use Dragon Hidden in Pond. The Netherworld's number 1 star master naturally was not an empty name. Using 2 techniques consecutively, he completely did not give Su Xing the slightest opportunity, but he already knew about Great Saint Starkiller's might. Su Xing naturally would not be so rash. On the contrary, what Su Xing had waited for was Great Saint Starkiller using Dragon Hidden in Pond. Dragon Hidden in Pond made Great Saint Starkiller's speed increase several-fold in an instant. His body was like a dragon, the axe head suddenly slashing. In the blink of an eye, he had drawn near, directly making for Su Xing's heart. The blaze refining Ning Hell's saber horizontally blocked in front of his chest, perfectly blocking this cut. The blaze refining nine hells saber barely blocked for a second before nevertheless shattering. Ah! Great Saint Starkiller felt enormous surprise. Su Xing was not infuriated, but smiled instead. How could he have known that Su Xing had already experienced his dragon hiding in pond? Naturally, he knew that this move's fierce aspect was in its strength instantly exploding at the moment of attack. Not good. Great Saint Starkiller suddenly had an unsightly expression. Su Xing's left hand that had been charging now struck full force. Great Saint Starkiller only felt his eyes were dazzled, and his chest went cold. Su Xing's devil-like 5-fingered demonic claw pressed against his chest, the movement incomparably gentle. This was the first time ever that Great Saint Starkiller had been stunned by a Star Master. He had yet to cry out when there was a Zila sound. A sharpness sharper than even a sword directly seized Great Saint Starkiller and violently tore downwards. A wound deep enough to show bones sent blood flying. Great Saint Starkiller screamed, flying away. Su Xing clenched his claw that dripped with blood, not having thought that the 9 claws true dragon art he obtained from Long Outyen would be so useful. Then he did not hesitate at all to continue attacking. Wu Song, is this all you can do? Guan Ying's hands gripped the great blade, and the Guanghan red hair suddenly charged forwards. It slammed the white and black unicorn tiger, sending it sliding backwards 100 meters. The horse's footfalls thundered, the sound of the wind like a thunderclap. Guan Ying raised the purple brilliant moon slashing blade and charged forth, her aggression like a swelling sea. Wu Xiao's expression was ice and frost. Gritting her teeth, the harm star was very clear about her present situation. With Guan Ying riding her star beast, even Lu Junyi would be slightly hard-pressed. Originally, the brave star had an advantage in all aspects, yet in their current battle, Wu Song was being overwhelmed even more. Consecutively clashing with their star beasts in 100 exchanges, Wu Xiao's snow-white skirt already displayed numerous tears. Even the white and black unicorn tiger was also weary and battered. Continuing like this further would only bring about defeat even quicker. Wu Xiao's eyes showed an even colder light. As the pilgrim, Wu Xiao knew her own advantage absolutely was not on star beasts, but rather on foot. Now, the sole thing she could do was to cut down Guan Ying's Guanghan red hair. Only with this could she have the possibility to fight. Wu Xiao did not plan to win at all. The only thing she thought of right now was to buy enough time for Chai Ling and Su Xing to capture the star beast. Of course, the battles between top-notch martial generals often would give each other enormous benefit. On this point, Wu Xiao also was fixated. Her hands clenched the sword, concentrating the strength of her whole body into her wrists. The white and black unicorn tiger sensed its master's intent, and it wildly charged. In their first exchange, the clashing of metals struck their eardrums. Suddenly, Wu Xiao jumped, leaving the white and black unicorn tiger. The white and black unicorn tiger opened its mouth wide, and like a flash of lightning, it pounced. Wu Xiao's figure landed like a swallow, the noble frost demonic lotus, slashing at Guan Ying on the Guanghan red hair. Wu Xiao attacked above, the white and black unicorn tiger attacked below, her coordination with Star Beast making Guan Ying slightly impressed. But this was not enough. The Guanghan red hair jolted out flowing frost and raging flames, doubling over as it attacked the white and black unicorn tiger. Guan Ying at this time also instantly slashed. Sweeping between the pilgrim's arms, she slashed directly at the chest. How could she have anticipated that? Wu Xiao suddenly flung the double-ended sword, and a powerful killing intent directly burst open in the area, like converging lotuses. In that instant, Wu Xiao's speed abruptly was swift to the extreme. Tenli demonic lotus dragon slaying. Guan Ying was astonished. Her own attack had been beat back. Relying on this sudden outburst of aggression, Wu Xiao arrived behind Guan Ying in the blink of an eye, and her sword slashed down at red hair. The matchless fifth-stage brave star was bold and powerful. Wu Xiao's seemingly unexpected sneak attack completely did not need any reflection from Guan Ying. Leaning, she instinctively lashed out with her blade, the purple brilliant moon slashing blade slashing ahead, raising a cold wind. This time, Wu Xiao absolutely did not have any possibility of evading. If only little sister could return to the star nest. Guan Ying thus said. Wu Xiao faced the onward slash without a trace of fear. Just at this moment, without warning, Guan Ying felt her whole body jolt. There was a sort of pain as if her soul was being thrashed. The brave star's complexion changed, and this slash suddenly lost its sharpness. The weapon's tip brushed past Wu Xiao's cheek, and her hair was severed inch by inch from the weapon's blade chi. Guan Ying's split-second hesitation gave Wu Xiao a valuable opportunity to counterattack. Wu Xiao even used a lightning-like rush. The matchless fifth-stage Guan Ying practically did not need to think during battle. Her palm patted the Guanghan red hair, and her figure immediately soared away from red hair. In that instant she left, the Guanghan red hair was twisted apart by an eerie swordlight like ink yet also like snow. Fortunately, the Guanghan red hair was not the average star beast. Being slashed by Wu Xiao like this merely sent it to its last gasp, tottering on the brink. The white and black unicorn tiger pounced, biting down on the Guanghan red hare's windpipe. The Guanghan red hare's whole body of frost and flame erupted and immediately surged like a storm. Azure Dragon Slash. 2. Guan Ying shouted. She promptly brandished her blade. Star generals that entered the matchless realm did not need to charge in order to use Heaven Earth Dark Yellow, and a yellow rank technique was done as easily as turning her hand. This slash was powerful as lightning, the blade chi spurting forth an azure dragon that directly attacked. There were two cries. Sparks fell as did white light. The Guanghan red hair and the white and black unicorn tiger surprisingly both disappeared. The star beasts that star generals contracted were not at all innately immortal like star generals, but they did have the capability to resurrect 3 times. However, each death and subsequent revival would require the waste of even more star energy. Furthermore, the death of the star beast would make star generals hurt for a very long time. Guan Ying's mighty smile had already disappeared from sight. Out of the corner of her eye, several hundred meters away were the currently battling Su Xing and Great Saint Starkiller. Spotting that Great Saint Starkiller had unexpectedly sustained injury, she was somewhat enraged. It was that moment just now that if Great Saint Starkiller had not been injured, simultaneously draining her, the harmed star before her might have already directly star fell. However, that instant honestly was too fortunate. Guan Ying could only see this as heaven's concern for the previous overlord. Enviable concern. How is it? Guan Ying said. What? Wu Song, do you still wish to fight? You completely do not need to come to Evil Smiting Hall and must be able to leave as you please. Guan Ying said. Wu Song did not reply. Gripping her sword in one hand, her slender jade legs stepped apart into an attack stance. Her answer was very direct. Worthy of being called the successor of the previous overlord, this general is impressed. Guan Ying nodded her head in praise. Then she shook her head. But, you ought to know, the you without a star master fundamentally cannot defeat this general. Although Guan Ying had suffered a hardship because of Great Saint Starkiller, regardless of how it was put, with the support of Great Saint Starkiller's star energy, Guan Ying already far surpassed Wu Xiao in terms of star energy. Just this amount of star energy alone was sufficient to allow Guan Ying the use of the Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow to make Wu Xiao properly suffer misfortune. Could it be that you remain behind for the sake of that man? Guan Ying turned her head, watching the Su Xing fighting Great Saint Starkiller. Great Saint Starkiller regained his senses. After casting Guan Ying an apologetic expression, he immediately was abruptly infuriated yet also cautious. Great Saint Starkiller had cultivated the 8 desolate heavenly demon body, and also had Guan Ying's innate skill, the unrivaled. For Su Xing to kill him was not as easy as killing a star general. So long as Great Saint Starkiller made no further errors, Guan Ying believed that man would die sooner or later. Guan Sheng, you have a lot of nonsense to say. Wu Xiao's voice was expressionless as her figure flashed by. It seems indeed so. Guan Ying nodded. Leaping, the purple brilliant moon slashing blade horizontally blocked Wu Xiao's attack. Curling her lips into a smile, both her hands grasped the purple brilliant moon slashing moon blade. Wu Song, this general shall see for just how long you can stay in Evil Smiting Hall. Guan Sheng's whole body erupted with a powerful intimidating aura. Unexpectedly forcing Wu Xiao's attack apart, she nearly was injured from the impact. Even so, this aggression still made Wu Xiao's eyes blink. Innate skill, unrivaled mode? Just at this moment, her eyes flashed a cold light. Clang clang. Sparks sprayed everywhere. Wu Xiao's seemingly forever cold pupils showed enormous shock. Such swift speed, such powerful strength. Guan Ying's wrist sunk, and blossoming with an imposing smile, the purple brilliant moon slashing blade released terrifying waves. The attack instantly was like a rushing tide. At practically the moment metal clashed, Wu Xiao's double-ended sword and Guan Ying's purple brilliant moon slashing blade slammed into each other, giving rise to an enormous impact so cold that the entire earth shivered and fog wildly rolled away. Wu Xiao adjusted her sword, moved her figure. The qi on her sword blade concentrated into a sharp saber light, ripping apart the air. The air distorted. Wu Xiao attacked with full power, not holding back in the slightest. Regardless of whether it was with speed, angle, power, or willpower, everything was impeccably perfect. This slash was directly went for a blind spot, flawless. Perfect? Guan Ying had always been fond of trampling perfect things. She allowed Wu Xiao to once again witness the total superiority of a 4-star destined weapon. The purple brilliant moon slashing blade stirred. Crushing Wu Xiao's perfect sword light, the power she raised directly pushed Wu Xiao back. Following the movement of the saber light, the purple brilliant moon slashing blade slashed out an azure dragon, not to attack Wu Xiao, but rather to attack Su Xing. Wu Xiao's pupils shrunk. Guan Ying's eyes laughed as if she was saying, "Do you wish to save him?" Wu Xiao hesitated for a split second, not moving. She grabbed the noble frost demonic lotus, her attacks actually in continuous fury. "Little sister, that is truly a good expression," Guan Ying exclaimed. "Careful." The Su Xing currently battling Great Saint Starkiller suddenly sensed a powerful strength attack. Out the corner of his eye, an azure dragon like a sword made a beeline for his chest. Su Xing hastily retreated, but that azure dragon was seemingly alive, chasing after Su Xing. That speed and power was swift nearly to the point of making Su Xing completely incapable of blocking. With the yellow rank technique used by a matchless 5th stage 4-star destined weapon, let alone Su Xing being able to dodge, even a heavenly star martial general would not necessarily avoid this. Damn it. Su Xing did not expect that Guan Ying would be so troublesome. To be able to send an attack at him while fighting Wu Xiao, this was the brave star in unrivaled state. At any opportunity, at any time, she could execute the attack she wanted. "Hey!" Gong Kaiwei abruptly blocked with her body. A flying sword shielded her. "You're crazy!" Su Xing turned pale with fright when he saw that Gong Kaiwei unexpectedly wanted to shield him. This slash proceeded. Unless Gong Kaiwei had some trump card, she would undoubtedly be scattered smoke and ash. The azure dragon blade light exploded. For a time, 7-colored starlight twinkled and formed a magnificent galaxy that unexpectedly broke the azure dragon slash. Su Xing stared in a daze, his heart suddenly somewhat worried. Gong Caiwei's figure was indistinctly visible in the explosion. When Su Xing saw, he hastily rushed to her side. Grabbing her, he shouted, "You're crazy! Always, it has been the handsome hero that blocks the blade for the beautiful damsel. What are you doing going against convention?" Gong Caiwei's cold as snow face also was blank when she heard these words. This man was unavoidably too lacking in a sense of urgency, unexpectedly flirting in front of this one. Great Saint Starkiller angrily said, "Get lost." 3. Su Xing waved his hand. Lengye emitted a quaking cry that actually made Great Saint Starkiller roll quite a distance away. "Damned evil suppressed gem bamboo. It was not I who blocked that." Gong Kaiwei saw that Su Xing had grabbed her shoulder. Her brow furrowed, somewhat in pain. When Su Xing saw, he was a bit too anxious just now. "It wasn't you? Then what about these?" Starlight swirled and enveloped the entire area in an atmosphere of ancient mystery. Lowering their heads, they saw Chai Ling seemingly smiling yet not as she stood below watching. "Su Xing, you are somewhat unfaithful, unexpectedly wishing to take advantage of even a star master." Looking at the queen's forehead, her frontlet and other jewels twinkled with a gorgeous starlight. These starlights was just like a veil draped over Chai Ling's shoulders, making Chai Ling appear even more elegant and refined. Mysteriously making them feel fear, following Chai Ling's white finger dancing, this moonlight and starlight seemed to come alive and emit a spirit-like brilliance. Flowing, they dispersed the entire edge. Purple star astral treasure, moon-seizing star-taking. 5. Gong Kaiwei muttered. "This palace certainly does not want to owe you a favor." Chai Ling said, "Mph." From far away, there was a sneer. An azure dragon once again bellowed. Chai Ling's eyes flashed with light. Her finger fluttered, starlight twinkled, and flowing like a river, the moment the azure dragon sunk into the galaxy, it immediately disappeared without a trace. Guan Ying displayed one aspect of unrivaled. The purple brilliant moon-slashing blade directly used azure dragon slash. Heavenly stars using heaven-earth dark yellow generally was very demanding. Using one would consume much strength, and even if they were higher by a realm, they would not misuse it. Until the critical moment, there was no usefulness. But Guan Ying in unrivaled basically did not need to care about this minor detail. The azure dragon slash surged forth, as if it completely ignored Wu Xiao's existence. Chai Ling grit her teeth. The galaxy and bright moon that moon-seizing star-taking raised was increasingly dense, continuously breaking Guan Ying's azure dragon slash. Quickly go capture the star beast, we cannot defeat her. Su Xing shouted, immediately using Langya in a tandem dance. Afterwards, he aimed at Great Saint Starkiller. Moon-seizing star-taking really was not unlimited in use. Each time she broke an Azure Dragon Slash, it greatly consumed the star energy that Little Whirlwind had accumulated over so many years. After several times, she was somewhat burdened. Hearing Su Xing's words, Chai Ling said nothing more. Seeing that the three-eyed wealth-inviting beast had already eaten the gold, the perfect opportunity to capture it. Chai Ling was very clear that the group right now basically was incapable of confronting the Guan Ying that held the advantage. Do not be furious before your servant. Seeing Guan Ying so unbridled, Wu Xiao was angry. Hey! The purple brilliant moon-slashing blade's trajectory suddenly changed. All of a sudden, Guan Ying's slash drew near before Wu Xiao's eyes. With an air-shattering sparkle, Wu Xiao somersaulted down. Little sister, still you do not leave. Guan Ying's power was vast, displaying a tyrannical moon-slashing blade technique. Wu Xiao's expression was exceptionally grave. For the sake of not letting Guan Ying face Su Xing, she had already completely blocked Guan Ying's line of sight, concentrating the blade technique on herself. Passing through the purple brilliant moon-slashing blade's change in trajectory and the sweeping air of intimidation, Wu Xiao could clearly see the Guan Ying in the center. Continuing with several dozen exchanges, Wu Xiao already fell back again and again, being forced to a dead end. Great Blade Guan Ying's moon-slashing blade technique was very tyrannical, proving herself to have inherited the legendary Three Kingdoms Warlord Saint of War Guan Yu's blade technique. Bang! Dodging again and again. Sword Light directly attacked. Guan Ying was taken aback. From what she felt confronting Noble Frost Demonic Lotus, there really was not a prideful fighting spirit of fury. Rather, there was a kind of completely confounding tranquility and a sort of easy as lifting weights calm. Guan Ying's sneer instantly came into Wu Xiao's view. Slashing without any leeway, in the midst of a shattering sound, she cut her target apart. But this was only a shadow. A sneer came from behind her. All of a sudden, Wu Xiao appeared. Guan Ying did not need to react at all, for she instinctively spun around to block. Heaven knew how this sort of maneuver was completed, but a firelight appeared on her weapon, simultaneously pushing back. A trace of blood flew out. It was unknown when her arm had a wound ripped open by Guan Ying's purple brilliant moon-slashing blade. Blood directly flowed, yet Wu Xiao remained unmoved. Without pausing at all, two figures rapidly rushed towards each other with speed beyond compare. Guan Ying's purple brilliant moon-slashing blade pierced through an incalculable distance, striking in a straight line. The shadow of the blade along the ground suddenly grew longer. Fuck, there is no beating him. This was the first time that the great Saint Starkiller, who had thought himself the complete master of the star duels, had this sort of powerless feeling. Faced with Su Xing's Langya flying swords, Great Saint Starkiller could only barely defend. He needed to be very cautious in even just approaching. With regards to the always arrogant and proud Great Saint Starkiller, let alone how sullen he was, Great Saint Starkiller did not dare touch Su Xing directly. Besides those evil suppressing gem bamboo, what Great Saint Starkiller was even more concerned about was the moon-seizing star taking on the body of the elegant queen. The noble star Little Whirlwind Chai Jin. This made Great Saint Starkiller truly bewildered. The noble star Whirlwind was placed outside of the star duels, having never participated once in the 1,000 years of star duels. How was it that this time, she would on the contrary sign a contract with a man? This simply was somewhat unreasonable. A Chai Jin participating in the star duels was basically more trash than Song Jiang was, right? Could it be that she is not the noble star? Great Saint Starkiller thought to himself. Considerations about Chai Ling's identity made Great Saint Starkiller rather nervous. At least, from the looks of that purple star astral treasure, her background was not small. Right, how could this one have forgotten about it? Great Saint Starkiller sneered. Suddenly, his hand flipped. A treasure book of sparkling gold appeared. Golden light swirled, lingering everywhere. The birth treasure outline. Liangshan continent had 4 birth treasure outlines, and the Netherworlds was in Great Saint Starkiller's hands. Although Great Saint Starkiller felt it was not useful at all, now, it seemed that it could finally show its uses. The treasure book appeared, and Chai Ling's materials immediately hovered above the book. Star position, Noble Star name, Chai Jin nickname, Little Whirlwind true name, Chai Ling rank, 10th star weapon, Red Ink Iron Certificate Star Beast, Realm, Matchless First Stage, 2 Innate Skill, Help the Needy for Justice 5 Elements, Metal, 3, Yellow rank Special Move, None Dark rank Special Move, None Current Status, Together to Hell, Cannot be Conquered, Detailed Materials. When Great Saint Starkiller saw the material on the book, he was both delighted and shocked. Delighted because the elegant woman in front of him truly was the noble Star Whirlwind who had placed herself above the star duels for 1,000 years. Everyone in Liangshan knew about the Little Whirlwind's Red Ink Iron Certificate. If he could kill her and obtain this certificate would practically be a tiger that had grown wings. It was just that for the Chai Ling outside of the star duels, any Star Master or Star General could take her, and she would have no way out. Now, things nevertheless were different. Chai Jin entering Evil Smiting Hall signified that the star weapon was incapable of use. In the case she used the Red Ink Iron Certificate, she was participating in the star duels. Concerning the noble star participating in the star duels, the Red Ink Iron Certificate only had one chance to save the user's life. In other words, the current noble star was a paramount magic weapon. What made Great Saint Starkiller shocked was the noble star status. Together to Hell? What thing was this, to unexpectedly even make her incapable of being conquered? However, what also made Great Saint Starkiller set his mind at ease was that the noble star had not signed a contract. Then the Star Master possessing the evil suppressing gem bamboo flying swords before him also did not have the Red Ink Iron Certificate protecting his safety. It seemed this one's purple star astral treasure could finally display its usefulness. Just as he thought this, a blast of wind suddenly poured into his ear. Great Saint Starkiller put away his thoughts, just happening to spot Su Xing had already gotten close enough to attack. Great Saint Starkiller was somewhat infuriated he was being suppressed by Su Xing's evil suppressing gem bamboo. He was fortunate that he had come from Devil Star Palace, the Netherworld's #1 great sect, which was not inferior to the Azure Dragon Territory's Great Liang Dynasty. Immediately, he scratched the air, and several clumps of pitch-dark qi were sent out. This black qi was released, becoming thousands of strands that rolled towards Su Xing. The 12 Lengya immediately protected him, sparkling with bright jadeite light, gradually dissipating this black qi. Great Saint Starkiller smiled. He formed a hand seal. The 1,000 strands of black qi transformed into a black python. The heavenly cycle-changing holy swords also seized the chance to launch an attack. More than 100 starlights trembled in the air. Then, they began to one by one eerily disappear from where they were. Instantly, they covered Su Xing. However dazzling the 10,000-year evil-suppressing gem bamboo's evil-suppressing clear light was, a river pouring down in torrents that seemingly cut open the dense devil qi, this was not Great Saint Starkiller's ultimate goal. What he wanted was to make Su Xing approach him, join. Great Saint Starkiller faintly smiled. He pointed and began to display the innate skill unrivaled of Guansheng. This scattered dark devil qi once again surged and gathered, as if it was a giant mouth about to swallow Su Xing. Seizing the opportunity while Su Xing was trapped, Great Saint Starkiller did not stop at all. Rushing, his objective was not Su Xing. Rather, it was the noble star Little Whirlwind. Accept death. Just as Chai Ling was about to take out the evil smiting token to capture the three-eyed wealth-inviting beast, she spotted the attacking Great Saint Starkiller. Moon-seizing star taking activated, the galaxy flowed, and a bright moon rose into the sky. In the 100 meters surrounding her, a gorgeous star barrier appeared. Do not believe you are the only one with a purple star astral treasure, Chao Jin. Great Saint Starkiller was determined to win. His wrist flipped, and a dark red gourd appeared. This gourd was neither iron nor gold, neither wood or porcelain. Who knew what it was made from, but it sparkled with a scathing qi flame. From very far away, it made people feel a scorching heat. Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd. 5. Gong Kaiwei could discern the gourd's history. Liangshan continent's astral treasures were not at all numerous, and Purple Star astral treasures were even fewer. Famous Purple Star astral treasures were no more than 10, and this Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd was considerably out of the ordinary. The fire-red gourd rose into the air, emitting a raging fire. Immediately afterwards, countless fireballs poured down from the mouth of the gourd. Those meteors immediately swelled several hundred times in size upon emerging. That situation was seriously extremely like a meteor shower from space. In the blink of an eye, seemingly hundreds of stones of falling fire directly descended. 6. Upon slamming into moon-seizing star-taking's barrier, the galaxy promptly was evaporated. The Meteor Fall Divine Fire was far from ending, and even Chai Ling felt strained, already unable to maintain moon-seizing star-taking any further. You go capture the star beast and leave this place afterwards. Just leave that to me. Gong Tsaiwei's expression was cold. Forming hand seals, 36 talismans flew out of her astral bag. These talismans were made from black ice and emitted a cold chi. Each was identically supreme grade. This was the 7 Spirits Black Ice Talisman, 7, the Extreme Ice Holy Palace created. Combined with the Black Ice Cultivation Method, 7, Gong Kaiwei cultivated, they could display powerful abilities. The 36 7 Spirits Black Ice Talismans circulated, extending across the whole sky. Shining white light crisscrossed, the talismans glowed, and an enormous magic circle instantly appeared in Gong Tsaiwei's surroundings. Gong Kaiwei struck hand seals consecutively, uttering an incantation. The 36 7 Spirits Black Ice Talismans immediately ignited, transforming into icy balls of light. Following Gong Tsaiwei's unending chanting, they fully exerted star energy. Those light balls increasingly expanded, instantly reaching the size of a hill. The light of the array was dazzling. When Chai Ling saw, she promptly did not hesitate. Walking light as smoke, she arrived on the riches and honors Persia, taking out the evil smiting token to begin capture. How could Great Saint Starkiller stare blankly as Chai Ling left? What sense was there in renouncing fat that was already in his mouth? Great Saint Starkiller shouted, and the Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd immediately turned wildly, blurring immediately afterwards. Then, countless divine fire meteors fell from the sky, just like a dense downpour. In a range of 100 li inside Evil Smiting Hall, the air was a completely surging red cloud. In 50 li, the temperature was high enough to make people sweat profusely. This Purple Star astral treasure had inconceivable might. Ice Soul Divided Spirit, life does not end, go. Gong Kaiwei formed the Orchid Hand Seal. The 36 7 Spirits Black Ice Talismans shot into the sky. A powerful chill split apart the temperature of the sweltering fire. Between heaven and earth, there was suddenly a tandem dance of fire and ice. Great Saint Starkiller's Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd after all was a Purple Star astral treasure, and Gong Kaiwei merely used her powers combined with the 7 Spirit Black Ice Talismans. Even if they were supreme grade talismans, it was difficult to contend against a Purple Star astral treasure. After a brief moment, 36 ice balls were burned clean away by the divine fire. However, the Meteor Fall Divine Fire below the Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd itself was left with only a pitiful bit remaining. Since you do not flee, then this one shall send you on a journey. Great Saint Starkiller was resolute. Just at this moment, a crisis attacked. Great Saint Starkiller leaned without even thinking, and Su Xing's palm fell through. Then, another palm slammed Great Saint Starkiller aside. This was followed with a sweeping kick, and this time, Great Saint Starkiller was unable to dodge, his chin being kicked up. Even if he had the 8 desolate heavenly demon body strengthening his physical body, Su Xing's kick nearly broke Great Saint Starkiller's chin, making Great Saint Starkiller become dizzy and blur his sight. He promptly retreated, and when Su Xing wanted to attack again, Great Saint Starkiller's immemorial sword chant already protected his body. Could it be you or that Xie Jinyun? Great Saint Starkiller rubbed his hurting chin, grimacing in pain. He did not dare believe that silent and nameless Star Master was capable of hurting him. Could it be he was that number 1 Xie Zhenyuan of the Azure Dragon territory? This was the sole thing Great Saint Starkiller could comfort himself with. So you know too. Su Xing nevertheless did not mind him thinking this. Could it be your star general is Wu Song? Great Saint Starkiller recalled an astonishing fact. As the Netherworld Star Master, Great Saint Starkiller heard bits and phrases of news from the Azure Dragon territory, which were not at all clear, but since he had been praised as the Azure Dragon territory's number 1, it could be assumed that Xie Zhenyuan's Star General was within the top-notch martial generals to be able to pair up with this number 1. The harmed star Wu Song in front of him indeed was very fitting. Great Saint Starkiller did not care at all about the so-called honor of Wu Xiao's overlord position. In his belief, the strongest in the star duels joining hands with other strongest was the honor of the star duels. His team with Guan Ying was thus. Great Saint Starkiller flipped out the birth treasure outline towards Wu Xiao, but how could Su Xing give him that chance? Great Saint Starkiller had no choice. Again he urged on the Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd. Using the purple star astral treasure once again consumed extremely great amounts of star energy, and Great Saint Starkiller was now an arrow at the end of its path. The Meteor Fall Divine Fire Gourd sprayed out 2 bolts of Meteor Fall Divine Fire that was very feeble, being dissipated by Su Xing's Purple Cloud True Star. The Su Xing who had simply gone through 7 consecutive trips in and out of Evil Smiting Hall also really was not vigorous in terms of strength. Even if he had Wu Xiao's bottle of recovery potion, he still was somewhat short. For the moment, Great Saint Starkiller and Su Xing fought on even ground. As far as Great Saint Starkiller was concerned, this was practically humiliation. He stared at the Chai Ling about to capture her star beast. In the end, he could only gnash his teeth and unwillingly request brave Star Guan Ying for assistance. Ying, quickly come help me get rid of Chai Ling. Besides, Guan Ying and Wu Xiao were but locked in battle. The martial force of both sides hardly differed. If it was a close-quarters battle, Wu Xiao was at an advantage. However, Guan Ying had the super-powerful 4-star destined weapon. Each time the purple brilliant moon slashing blade hacked, the force made Wu Xiao feel heavy. Consumed in battle, Wu Xiao clearly was at a disadvantage. Still you do not leave Evil Smiting Hall? Guan Ying shouted aloud. Great blade descended, a phantom seemingly sweeping across Wu Xiao's defenses. The harm star made an illusory dodge, using her sword tip to block Guan Ying's slash, releasing a frightening thud. The double-ended sword Noble Frost Demonic Lotus had been jolted into ringing, as if it was groaning. She could not come into direct contact. Wu Xiao's legs left the ground as she lightly flew backwards. At the same time, her right arm bent and swung, Noble Frost Demonic Lotus carving out a brilliant trail that shot directly at Guan Ying. Guan Ying's blade instantly cut down the double-ended sword. Wu Xiao at this time suddenly tossed it. The sword's power was ample, and even the Brave Star's 4-star purple brilliant moon slashing blade was a bit fatigued. After knocking aside Noble Frost Demonic Lotus, she at the same time showed a gap of weakness. Wu Xiao was just like a graceful dancer. First aiming then striking, her 5 fingers tightly clenched into a booming punch. Guan Ying had long already reacted. Opening her right-left hand, her palm suddenly caught Wu Xiao's fist. Bang! Each of their strengths suddenly exploded. Neither of them were pushed back. Worthy of the Wu Song who can drop the white and black unicorn tiger with just her bare hands. The strength of the two competed under the surface. Guan Ying's smile was not at all relaxed. The Brave Star's star energy stirred. A star energy far surpassing Wu Xiao's violently shook, knocking Wu Xiao back several dozen meters. Before she even landed, Guan Ying raised her large blade, speedily following along, kicking forward. In midair, Wu Xiao lightly descended, flashing past Guan Ying's ranged attack. When she stepped back, her hand at the same time caught the falling Noble Frost Demonic Lotus. Afterwards, she reversed and blocked the purple brilliant moon slashing blade, the entire motion fluid as water and clouds. Wu Xiao's brows kept tightening. The pressure that Great Blade Guan Ying gave Wu Xiao was not at all light. If this continued, even if it was not a 4-star destined weapon, the chances of victory and defeat in facing Guan Ying were 50-50. If she had a 4-star at hand, Wu Xiao's victory would have been but assured. After 400 or 500 exchanges, Wu Xiao's star energy and stamina simultaneously faltered significantly. At times, she was nearly unable to keep up with Guan Ying's movements, startling her body into a cold sweat. Ha ha, to be able to battle with you, Wu Song, truly makes this general feel great happiness. Guan Ying currently immersed herself in her battle with Wu Xiao. Her offensive was like a tide, becoming more and more severe. Wu Xiao's snow-white skin was split open by several dozen minute cuts. Her head of gorgeous and flowing long hair was also cut bit by bit, losing 100 strands. Just at this moment, a voice interrupted Guan Ying's mood. "Inga, quickly come help me get rid of Chai Ling." Great Saint Starkiller released an urgent voice. Previously, Guan Ying had felt Great Saint Starkiller was a talent that supported heaven and earth, prideful and unafraid, extraordinary in martial arts, gifted and outstanding. As the brave Star Great Blade's master, he was pretty good. How was it that today she would hear such sorry voice? Guan Ying felt this was ear-piercing. Hesitating a moment, Guan Ying bit her lip, her expression severe as she pushed Wu Xiao back with a slash, turning around and leaving immediately afterwards. Unhappiness was unhappiness, and hearing Great Saint Starkiller's pleas, as his contracted star maiden, she could not ignore him. It was just that in Guan Ying's bones, she did not truly wish to kill Chai Ling, a little sister that was positioned outside of the star duels. Not good. Hearing Great Saint Starkiller unexpectedly call for reinforcements, Su Xing's heart sunk. As he turned his head, Guan Ying had already arrived, her speed swift to making people feel this was beyond reason. "Inger, that is the noble star, we absolutely cannot allow her to escape." With the red ink iron certificate, the overlord of Maiden Mountain this generation will undoubtedly be us and no other. Great Saint Starkiller showed his desire. Other than freaks like Su Xing, if anyone else knew the red ink iron certificate was here, they would all be unable to remain calm. Guan Ying glanced at the Chai Ling currently concentrating on capturing her star beast. With a queen's figure and elegance, she was a beauty, in appearance without the slightest bit of defense. One Azure Dragon slash could easily settle her. Guan Ying showed a hesitant expression. "Don't think you can do this." Su Xing shouted, raising his sword and charging. Guan Ying was somewhat angry, her large blade easily knocking aside the flying sword. "This general shall kill you first then." Her legs kicked, the large blade slashed. This slash sunk with great power, the wind it lifted directly blowing Su Xing over. Guan Ying slashed in succession. White light like a swallow quickly turned about, blocking Guan Ying's advance. The Star Masters dare to show amateur talent before this general. Guan Ying saw that the two Star Masters had unexpectedly dared to use their swords to directly attack. Coldly grunting, she also forced Gong Kai Wei back. "Guan Ying, where are you going?" Behind her again came a cold shout. "You came at the perfect time." Guan Ying turned around to face Wu Xiao. The girl was like a tigress and Guan Ying like the red hair. Wu Xiao's fingers tightly clenched the double-ended sword. The sword's blade slightly lowered, raising a wind that blew aside the fog. A sharp expression and a long tip combined into a line. The cool and elegant woman suddenly charged forth in a burst of power, the double-ended sword roaring as it slashed, drawing in the air a cold as frost and pitch-black as ink's slender trail. Clang clang. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus descended. Guan Ying smiled. In an instant, she used the large blade to block this attack, although both her hands were jolted slightly numb by Wu Xiao's attack. However, she nevertheless did not care in the slightest. She seized the chance to flip her weapon, the great blade advancing from the other direction. "Hey!" Guan Ying's furiously shouted and spun the purple brilliant moon-slashing blade. A violent blade chi followed along the weapon's surface and shot out. Then the entire shaft of the great blade violently shuddered. This powerful shaking feeling made the webbing between Wu Xiao's thumb and forefinger tear. With just a loss in spirit, the noble frost demonic lotus in her hands was already knocked out of grasp. The purple brilliant moon slashing blade accompanied with a shout violently slashed downwards, as if she had already caught sight of the scene of purple brilliant moon slashing blade finally cutting down Wu Xiao. Wind broke with the slash. With everything hanging by a thread, a figure suddenly rushed. Su Xing embraced Wu Xiao and with a difficult-to-seize trajectory, he dodged that purple brilliant moon slashing blade's entire sequence of attacks. Even in the instant Guan Ying's full power stab hit empty space, he made a thrilling escape. Inge, quickly killing Chai Ling is more important. Great Saint Starkiller hurriedly ordered, spotting that Chai Ling was about to finish capturing her star beast. Wan Sheng, is the honor of your brave star prepared to make a move against a sister that is positioned outside of the star duels? Wu Xiao shouted, her figure descended like a swallow. Descending in front of Guan Ying, the noble frost demonic lotus, in her hand was a pitch-black flecked with snow. There was a bright light, and seemingly countless snow lotuses bloomed. That honestly makes your servant disappointed. Wu Xiao lowered the double-ended sword. This time, she no longer held back. The weapon waved, and a light ray seemingly like snow and ink was just like the most perfect crescent moon in the world drew a beautiful arc in the air. A thrilling beautiful scene flit across their retinas. The snow white that rose along with the light was just like a penetrating and sharp cold light, exuding an incisive aggression. A glance was absolutely terrifying, to speak much less of facing it directly. Moonlight and swordlight enveloped Guan Ying. In that instant, the colors between heaven and earth had only this scenery. Sensing the might of Wu Xiao's attack, clearly she had used her dark rank technique. The light fragments following in her heels were just like thousands of blades stabbing at Guan Ying. Guan Ying took up purple brilliant moon slashing blade and sunk into a defensive posture. A crescent moon blossomed from Guan Ying's abdomen. The brave star was knocked high into the air, and then came falling heavily down. Inge! Great Saint Starkiller turned pale with fright. Guan Ying climbed up, the armor of her whole body already split open with a terrifying wound, directly leaking blood. Although Wu Xiao's dark rank technique was fierce, the cost was not little. Guan Ying used her 4-star destined weapon still to block it, yet the brave star looked at her own wound with some indifference. Inge, how can you stand at the peak of martial artists if you are soft-hearted? Great Saint Starkiller immediately shouted when he saw. How can there be any benevolence to be said in subjugating Maiden Mountain? Could it be the brave stars that have gone by are not lessons? At that time, Chai Ling was already about to reach the very end of capturing her star beast, and Great Saint Starkiller was greatly worried. These words provoked Guan Ying. In that instant, the girl's eyes reddened. Clenching the great blade tight in her hand, a powerful star energy endlessly concentrated onto purple brilliant moon slashing blade. An incomparable aggression intimidated all directions. Su Xing and Gong Kaiwei felt as if they could not move, as if that Guan Ying had turned into an enormous mountain. Careful, it is her dark rank technique. When Wu Xiao saw, her expression changed for the first time. Guan Ying raised the frost-fair blade in her hand, vigorously dispersing a keen spirit. In all the world, nothing could surpass this in violence. Her tyrannical spirit was powerful as an unrivaled god of war. When Guan Ying brandished her blade, the great blade's intimidating air ravaged even time until nothing was left. In the world, there only remained a sort of absolute overbearing aura, a sort of unstoppable force, a wild display of power. Dark rank blade technique, total annihilation. This is bad. The moment total annihilation activated, Guan Ying's reclining moonblade technique had already arrived at a realm that no one could reach. In Su Xing's eyes, he already could not see what slash Guan Ying made. He only had a kind of complete coldness wrap around his whole body, as if he had fallen into an icehouse. Frightening enough to make them directly dribble cold sweat. Guan Ying's total annihilation was a super powerful technique allowing her to instantly attack several thousands of times in a single instant, forcing surrounding soldiers and cavalry into a complete wipeout, leaving not a single thing alive. After 4-star, let alone Su Xing, even a supercluster ancestral master would die without doubt, unless there was a fluke. But there was a woman that actually far above the so-called supercluster ancestral masters in terms of close combat. She was also the sole person capable of maintaining her calm inside total annihilation. Was none other than Wu Song. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus displayed its power at the most critical moment, clashing brilliantly with Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade. Heroic sparks burst forth from the two top-notch star generals. The double-ended sword became countless phantoms, splitting off from each other, just like snow lotuses blossoming in pitch blackness. Similarly, also instantly increasing her attack to the limit, the exhausted Wu Xiao, who previously used a dark rank already completely, did not hold back, but in the end, she was somewhat lacking. Little sister, still you do not quickly leave. Before the sparks could scatter, Guan Ying's Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade already blew by with a wind. The force of that blade technique, powerful enough to make people nearly despair, sent Wu Xiao sliding pitifully back. Wu Xiao's face was colorless, the double-ended sword's defense already unable to be maintained. Guan Sheng, eat my sword! Su Xing shouted out loud, his hand raising the clinging Fire Star Domain sword. Within Guan Ying's total annihilation, Su Xing's flying swords already lost any usefulness. They could only be swept aside in disarray. Although the clinging Fire Star Domain sword was not necessarily able to take the dominant position, he would fight with everything he had to help lessen the burden on Wu Xiao. The clinging Fire Star Domain sword directly slashed downwards. A completely red blaze engulfed the sky, becoming several dozen fire dragons. Guan Ying's eyes were red. As if she was cackling, her frost fair blade once again rising and returning. Powerful and unyielding, the several dozen fire dragon were like laughable scraps of paper. Within the might of total annihilation, they easily were ground to pieces. Su Xing did not retreat. Though the fire dragons shattered, his sword tip nevertheless did not withdraw, pointing directly at Guan Ying's chest. Guan Ying's wrist moved. Before her blade technique executed, the blade chi of total annihilation already wildly swelled and surged. She attacked Su Xing, leaving him battered and bruised. At this moment, the Su Xing covered in dirt basically was too busy to go think about this. In his mind, there was only one thought. He absolutely could not allow Wu Xiao to take on Guan Ying's dark rank technique alone. The Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade carried an endless intense wind that cut apart the clinging fire, sweeping away Su Xing's attack, thus easily cutting it down. Countless afterimages of the Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade appeared in the air, all of them just like the real thing, indistinguishable. Each of the afterimages was full of a sharp murderous spirit, yet hollow enough that it would disappear at any time on its own. Su Xing watched dumbstruck. For a Star Master to go contend against the Brave Star's dark rank technique, the end result could not be more clear. The countless indistinguishable afterimages of the Purple Brilliant Moon Slashing Blade attacked Su Xing from the front. They looked as if they were about to pierce Su Xing into honeycomb. Su Xing yelled, and the clinging Fire Star Domain sword flew out, its fire burning the heavens. However, in the blink of an eye, it was extinguished by Guan Ying's blade chi. The sword's edge cracked. The clinging Fire Star Domain sword split apart again and again. Soon, this heavenly spirit astral treasure was about to be destroyed under total annihilation. Suddenly, someone pulled him. Before he could react, he was pulled aside to evade the blade technique. That is enough already. Wu Xiao's white clothes blocked his line of sight. The pilgrim engaged in a sword dance, very flowing and smooth. A cracking sound. A piece of 7-colored rainbow jade cracked on the spot before Tang Lianxin's eyes. Little sister Lianxin, you are all right? What is the matter? The girls inside the Immortal's abode drew close in astonishment. Tang Lianxin had been helping the sisters refine the iridescent rainbow-colored glass jade. With the great sun essence flame butterfly, the solitary star's tool refinement was even more perfect than ever before. What her heart wished for, her hands accomplished. It was just that she did not know why when she was refining one piece of colored glass jade, Tang Lianxin felt ill at ease. Tool refinement required a tool refinement master's highest concentration. They absolutely could not be distracted. With this distraction, that piece of colored glass jade immediately shattered. Apologies. Tang Lianxin lowered her head in guilt. It is rare for little sister Lianxin to show this sort of mistake. Is it because of Su Xing? Shi Yuan said. She turned her head to gaze at Wu Xinjie. I was also somewhat uneasy refining the 5 poisons banner just now. My heart always has been somewhat not too at ease. In actuality, it was not just her. How could the brows of Ensuan, Yan Yizhen, Gongsun Huang and Lin Yingmei also not knit somewhat in worry? All of the girls turned their gazes to look at the mastermind knowledge star. Although they did not know of Wu Song's aid, Su Xing could not possibly have had something happen to him. Even so, their hearts generally were somewhat not too relaxed. Upon entering Evil Smiting Hall, the link between Star Contractor and Star General was blocked. However, they occasionally still could sense something. Be at ease, with Chai Ling present, there definitely will not be anything. Wu Xinjie said. Why would Sister Xinjie say with Chai Ling present? And Suan softly said, somewhat confused. Compared to the noble star, the harm star clearly was even more worthy of confidence. The other girls were also puzzled by the mystery of Wu Xinjie's words. Could it be because of Chai Ling's red ink iron certificate? However, she is unable to use it. What astral treasure does she have? Wu Xinjie slightly smiled, saying, let alone that Chai Ling and young lord ingested the together to hell, by entering Evil Smiting Hall, she will not be so reckless. If Xinji has not guessed wrongly, Wu Xinjie directed her gaze to the maids Jinji and Yuye that accompanied Chai Ling. Noblewoman Chai ought to have sought out the divine mathematician Jiang Jing for a divination, correct? Jinji and Yuye nodded. Chai Ling has found the divine mathematician? Lin Yingmei's brows slightly furrowed. If this was true, then indeed this could let them relax a little bit. Regardless of how it was put, Jiang Jing's divine calculation was famous far and wide. It seems we were too worried, ha. The girls breathed a sigh of relief. Wu Xinjie smiled, though her eyes nevertheless had a trace of graveness. Heavy breathing penetrated the air. Each breath carried total suffering. Su Xing and Wu Xiao both withdrew. The two already were beaten black and blue. Slightly shuddering, they gazed at Guan Ying's great blade with grave and stern expressions. Wu Song, you still do not leave? Could it be you truly wish to die? Guan Ying was confused. Shouting aloud, she flipped her great blade around, already adopting a second attack stance. Wu Xiao gripped the already not so steady Noble Frost demonic lotus. The weapon followed its master's thoughts and did not lose its cool grace. In her eyes was an indifference that did not retreat. Her answer was very clear. This general truly does not understand you. Guan Ying was angry. Wu Song already was clearly at a disadvantage. She had with her a 4-star destined weapon, so Wu Song basically did not have the slightest chance of victory. Even if it was that sort of clingy battle, she ought to stop before going too far. Guan Sheng, of course you would not understand. Having lost the spirit of the warrior, the brave star already is no longer the brave stars of past. Wu Xiao was resolute. Inge, do not listen to her deluded lies. Quickly kill Chai Jin. Chai Ling was already at the final moments of capturing her star beast. The light rays of the evil smiting token already became even brighter. In fewer than several dozen seconds, any hopes of obtaining the red ink iron certificate would be thoroughly lost. At such a chance bestowed by heaven, the ordinarily calm great saint Starkiller was somewhat worried crazy. Seeing his attitude, Wu Xiao sneered. This must be your master? Guan Ying grit her teeth, angrily shouting. Then star duel. Guan Ying raised her great blade and once again rushed at Wu Xiao. You go protect Chai Ling. Wu Xiao ordered. Su Xing nodded. He knew that he had no chance at all of victory should he continue facing the brave star. Dragging her heavy body, Wu Xiao forged on with hardly any fear. The soul of the warrior burned, making Guan Ying feel scorched. The great blade and the double sword once again clashed and emitted gorgeous sparks. The two figures immediately sunk into the lights and shadows of blade and sword. Bastard, how can this one allow you to escape? Great Saint Starkiller was mad. He could not let Chai Ling go. His figure bolted, directly rushing forward to attack. Chai Ling's expression slightly cooled. Her moon-seizing star-taking had already lost its light. Circulating the evil smiting writ, she nevertheless did not care for Great Saint Starkiller's attack. She knew there was a man who would fulfill his promise. Great Saint Starkiller, your opponent is me. Su Xing shouted. Although his whole body was injured, his aggression did not falter. Savage! Flying swords each twisted in battle, their powers incessant. Relying on the 8 desolate heavenly demon body, Great Saint Starkiller madly charged onwards, prepared to use his corporeal body to directly beat Su Xing back. Great Saint Starkiller's offensive was like howling wind and torrential rain that struck upon Su Xing's body. Relying on his formidable speed to instantly approach his target, that rush's impact force was sufficient to rip apart powerful defenses. Add on that the moment he drew close, Great Saint Starkiller's battle style was ferocious and tyrannical. Black Chi wildly materialized, bearing claws and fangs. But Great Saint Starkiller clearly forgot there was another person present. At practically the moment he launched his attack, he instinctively sensed a type of extremely dangerous feeling. Suddenly at that moment, cold ice suddenly rose. An ice-cold, freezing frost like a blade stabbed with a whistle. Great Saint Starkiller was startled. The skin of his whole body immediately caught the cold frost, and a bone-chilling cold dug inside his body, and his body's reactions gradually became slow. How could Gong Kaiwei stare blankly as Su Xing gave his all to go against the wind? Originally, she had ran to this shiny place to divert a calamity. She did not expect to actually encounter Su Xing, and the slight guilt in her heart transformed into strength. Su Xing and Gong Kaiwei worked together. Great Saint Starkiller was battered and exhausted. A meow resounded in all 4 directions. This sound made Great Saint Starkiller feel indignant and unreconciled. Su Xing, this palace has captured the Star Beast. We are leaving. Chai Ling's heart was delighted. Her sleeve waved as she immediately spoke. Facing Guan Sheng, the little whirlwind recognized she was not currently an opponent. It was not advisable to linger here for too long. Good. Su Xing also had this plan. Siyo. Wu Siyo heard and nodded. Damn it. Great Saint Starkiller was furious. Just when Su Xing and Chai Ling prepared for the opportunity to leave Evil Smiting Hall, suddenly, Su Xing saw the motionless Gong Kaiwei. His heart abruptly jumped. Kaiwei, you leave first. There is no need to mind me, I have my own means. Gong Kaiwei said. Su Xing. Chai Ling already finished the preparations to leave. The Wu Xiao on that side was close to being unable to bear Guan Sheng. She looked at the hesitating Su Xing, and in those elegant eyes, a surprised expression appeared. What is the matter? I cannot leave. Su Xing looked at Gong Kaiwei, softly answering. Someone's heart was disturbed. I cannot leave. Su Xing's tone was serious. Even the Chai Ling who handled affairs without getting flustered felt goosebumps of surprise when she heard Su Xing's exclamation. Su Xing, have you gone insane? Su Xing did not answer. He only glanced at Gong Kaiwei, the contents inside his expression very clear. He could not allow Gong Kaiwei to remain here alone. This was not at all the so-called heart of beauty, and neither did his brain go mad. As one who had a soldier's blood down to the bone, abandoning comrades absolutely could not be permitted. Gong Kaiwei's heart was flustered. She clearly was more astonished than Chai Ling. I still do not need you to come take pity on me. Gong Kaiwei revealed tracing snow. Because the girl's consciousness was expanding, the feeble snowy wind flowed with a colorful splendor. Su Xing, are you thinking with your penis? Can one woman so easily dominate your life? This is too disappointing to this palace. Chai Ling's expression was very disdainful. Her eyes had an unconcealable feeling of disappointment. She had originally felt that Su Xing was different from all the other Star Masters she had seen and known, and she had a considerably favorable feeling. However, Su Xing's current conduct unavoidably made Chai Ling feel that the men under heaven were animals that thought with their lower halves, a revolting behavior. Are you a Star Master or not? To unexpectedly care about the life and death of other Star Masters? Chai Ling sneered, and she was just about to pinch apart the evil smiting writ. If they knew, they definitely would be thoroughly disappointed. Hey, Chai Ling, don't make it seem like I want to die? How could Su Xing's expression have felt any bit of urgency? His eyes completely lacked fear. On the contrary, it was filled with resolution. Gong Kaiwei, although you aren't my woman, you are my friend. Whoever is willing to abandon a friend and flee with his tail between his legs can go do so. Su Xing's tone of voice did not have the least bit of leeway. This made little whirlwind Chai Ling and Gong Kaiwei dumbstruck. Chai Ling was rendered speechless by Su Xing's words. The noble star chuckled and actually did not shatter the evil smiting writ. Rather, she had a sort of seeming smile, aiming a seemingly curious expression at Su Xing. As expected, he still made her feel something somewhat special about him. Ha 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 ha. The great Saint Starkiller who had just thought of despairing now howled with laughter. Originally, when Chai Jin captured the Star Beast, he had already given up hope on the red ink iron certificate. He did not expect the mountain path would wind back. This #1 Star Master of the Azure Dragon territory truly was thoroughly stupid, ridiculous to the extreme. Friend? Truly you are pedantic. If the uprightness of the Azure Dragon territory is like this, that truly is to the satisfaction of everyone. Great Saint Starkiller disdainfully laughed. The star duels could only have one victor, and friends were but a legend. Inge, what are you still hesitating for? Great Saint Starkiller's tone changed, severely shouting. But the sound of thunder jolted. With a crisp ring, Wu Xiao was sent flying. Brave Star Guan Ying raised the frost fair blade and already rushed over. A powerful intimidating aura was just like a surging tide. This one actually wants to see if this Xie Yuan is all big talk or truly does not wish to abandon his friend. Let this one see. Great Saint Starkiller's attitude was arrogant, his tone filled with mockery. He attempted to use words to trap Su Xing from changing his ideas. Seeing Su Xing's manner of not changing countenance even if Mount Tai were to collapse, Great Saint Starkiller sneered. He did not care one bit for the justice of the opponent in front of him. The noble star showing such ignorance made him even happier. Wu Song seemed to have found an old-fashioned star master. This one will make you pay the price. You deserve praise for your courage, yet there is merely nothing more. Do you believe you can protect her? Chai Ling's tone was stern. To be able to be looked upon by the knowledge star, Su Xing clearly was not that sort of impulsive person. The little whirlwind still truly did not believe anyone could abandon 7 sweet ladies for one woman on the verge of death. You need not mind me, we do not owe each other debts. Gong Caiwei's whole body had been jolted into trembling by Guan Ying's intimidating aura. Her expression was unwilling to concede defeat. Relax, Gong Kaiwei, I naturally will not die together with you for love. Su Xing tried to lighten the mood. Gong Caiwei's brows rose, somewhat speechless. What time was it now? Yet he still was cracking jokes. Gong Kaiwei truly could not fathom how the mind of the man in front of her worked. Seeing Su Xing's resolute profile, Gong Kaiwei only felt her heart was very disordered. Wu Xiao's sword blocked Guan Ying. The sword's edge blew with frost. Guan Ying clenched both her hands, and the frost fair blade heavily slashed down. A figure flashed by. Great blades swiftly flew, jolting with the imposing air of thousands of soldiers and tens of thousands of horses. Wu Xiao was directly sent flying, and with a light somersault, she landed near Su Xing. Xiao, you leave first, leave this place to me. Su Xing promptly said. Wu Xiao seemed to have not heard, for she was motionless. How can your servant abandon Lord Husband? Lord Husband, her cool and elegant address made everyone present shocked. Lord Husband. Great Saint Starkiller was incredulous. He could not help but be somewhat envious. Although this Lord Husband address made Su Xing's heart taste honey, it was too late to savor. Su Xing nervously shouted, "Wifey, if you truly do not leave, then we genuinely will die together for love." Wu Xiao was blank upon hearing his words. "Did you forget the matter that time with the Rock Demon King? I have my own means." Su Xing hinted. Wu Xiao immediately understood Su Xing's plan. Chaotic tail escape. In actuality, Su Xing's plan was very simple. The Guan Xing that had captured a star beast could only remain in Evil Smiting Hall for a day. So long as he could sustain for this one day, that would be all. By the time Wu Xiao left Evil Smiting Hall, Su Xing would rely on the chaotic tail escape to escape left and right. To break away from Guan Xing still was not as easy as turning over his hand. This forbidden technique, the chaotic tail escape, had already been strictly prohibited by the beauties after experiencing the Three Burrows crafty rabbit. The chaotic tail escape's usage frequency was increasing, and the burden on himself also turned more severe. The so-called self-defeat 800, kill 1,000 enemies, was thus. If because he used the chaotic tail escape and landed in an undefeated of the East situation, that would be a gain that did not make up for the losses. However, with the situation having reached this stage, he believed they would make an exception. Lord Husband is unwilling to abandon a friend, and how can your servant oppose Lord Husband? Wu Xiao was not joking. The pilgrim abandoning her Lord Husband and fleeing alone was something she absolutely could not do. Things at this time became considerably contradictory and comical. Su Xing did not want to abandon Gong Kai Wei, and thus, he could not leave Evil Smiting Hall. And Wu Xiao could not abandon her Lord Husband to leave alone. Then allow this one to send all of you to your deaths. Great Saint Starkiller was intimidating. At this time, Guan Ying already was imposingly and brilliantly standing in front of him. Is this man worthy of dying for? Brave Star Guan Ying's tone was hard as steel. Compared to the brave star who would act against a sister that placed herself outside of the star duels, how would your servant need you to warn us? Wu Xiao snorted disdainfully. These words hurt Guan Ying, making the girl's smile turn cold. That was just like a tiger or wolf-like expression glaring at Su Xing. Inge, quickly kill them, make them know the price of playing the hero, the cruelty of the star duels. Great Saint Starkiller said. Guan Ying gripped tight the frost fair blade, her 5 knuckles tight enough to turn white. But she nevertheless did not act. Brave Star Guan Ying. What are you doing? This one orders you, kill Chai Jin. Great Saint Starkiller's tone sunk, and he was furious. The 2 star crests flickered. The contract's command enforcement made the blood of Guan Ying's whole body boil. They could see that Guan Ying had already shook off the idea of facing Chai Jin, but the Star Master's orders made her appear very conflicted. If you want to kill Chai Jin, then you will have to first step over your servant's corpse. Wu Xiao's eyes flickered with a regretful sigh. Suddenly, she shouted, and swiftly attacking, she just happened to help Guan Ying out of her predicament. This general obeys your command. Guan Ying's tone was serious. They repeated the already unknown several hundred exchanges of blows. Things currently were considerably hard on Su Xing. On one hand, he could not possibly abandon Gong Kai Wei and escape. On the other, he even more could not possibly allow Wu Xiao to place herself in danger. Su Xing's heart honestly was torn to pieces, and Gong Kai Wei wanting to seize a chance to flee was not likely. There was still a Great Saint Starkiller staring. Although the Langia suppressed his flying sword ability, he was the Netherworld's #1 after all. If he only had to trap them here to death, Great Saint Starkiller was capable of doing so. Great Saint Starkiller actually began to steady. He looked at Su Xing with an expression full of mockery, thinking to himself that he was truly fortunate today. To have encountered such a stupid Star Master, it seemed heaven itself was helping him through the 9th generation star duels. This was destiny. So long as he waited for Guan Ying to kill the most problematic Wu Song, by that time, the other 2 Star Masters with the noble star would be fish meat on the chopping board, helpless to his slaughter. Our hero Su Xing, what good countermeasure do you have right now? Chai Ling pet the riches and honors Persia sitting in her bosom as she seemingly smiled. Chai Ling, Do you have any way that can persuade Sio? Su Xing was somewhat anxious. To persuade her to leave, this palace does not know what means you used to make Wu Sio unexpectedly recognize you as Lord Husband, but since you can make her say as much, do you feel that the harmed star will abandon you? Under heaven, you are not the only one willing to abandon certain people. Chai Ling said these words as she looked at the completely powerless Gong Kaiwei. This woman actually was somewhat of an incorruptible beauty. No wonder she could make men pity her. Chai Ling tightly pursed her lips. Gong Kaiwei was taciturn. Right, Chai Ling, you come a bit closer, I have something to say to you. Su Xing suddenly mysteriously smiled. He pulled Chai Ling over and drew near her ear. Their bodies pressed close, and an especially masculine air poured into her ear, making Chai Ling lose her gracefulness, her face turned red. Even Gong Kaiwei's gaze was drawn by the pair's intimate whispering, disturbing her heart which calmed only with great difficulty. Wu Sio currently was struggling hard for him, yet he unexpectedly was flirting with another woman. This made Gong Kaiwei's heart somewhat sour. A gap. Great Saint Starkiller saw Chai Ling was inattentive. Abruptly forming a hand seal, his flying swords transformed into countless circles of qi that wound around Su Xing. Then he used an escape technique to rush over, his fingertips trembling in excitement. Just when I was worried you wouldn't come. Su Xing had been monitoring Great Saint Starkiller's each and every movement. He could not overcome the 4-star Guanyin, but he nevertheless had 100% confidence about Great Saint Starkiller. Blue light crisscrossed, a purple thunder lightning net formed, and then a purple cloud hand grabbed. 3 abilities simultaneously appeared. Great Saint Starkiller's expression changed. The heavenly cycle-changing holy sword blocked, but Chai Ling smiled. Curling a white finger, an object flew out from her cloud bun. At the same time, the riches and honor Persia opened its third eye, firing a Milky Way-like blinding light of gold. Instantly, it annihilated Great Saint Starkiller's black qi. Not good, this was a trap. Great Saint Starkiller's pupils shrunk. The hairpin that flew out of Chai Ling's hair firmly pinned him. Then, trapped by the purple lightning net, the hand grabbed him. Great Saint Starkiller already was without a way out. He saw that Great Saint Starkiller was about to flee a calamity, but the moment that what Su Xing loathed the most appeared, Great Saint Starkiller shouted with only the severe yell of primordial chaos of origin, "Assist my great path." That voice instantly ended. A dragon cry rose through the 9 firmaments, surging over. A purple talisman jumped out from top of his head. This talisman's tadpole-like characters transformed into countless pieces that swam away. The purple mansion immortal thunder net and the purple cloud heaven suppressing stillness hand were run through with a crash by the pervasive purple light. The remaining sharpness expanded all around, forcing Su Xing and Chai Ling to retreat step by step. By the time they adjusted, Great Saint Starkiller already used the heavenly cycle-changing holy sword and a supreme grade talisman, Primal Origin Primordial Chaos Talisman, 2, to set up a powerful Origin of the Universe Heavenly Cycle Sword Array. By doing so, Great Saint Starkiller could not exit, but Su Xing and the others could not enter. Truly damnable. Great Saint Starkiller cursed. He had never felt so humiliated. The tailwind and smooth sailing of the previous 10 years seemingly was not complete misfortune at this moment. To be forced to use even his life-protecting Primal Origin Primordial Chaos Talisman, this was an enormous stroke of bad luck. No, so long as he could kill the Noble Star and obtain the Red Ink Iron Certificate, let alone a Supreme Grade Talisman, even 10 Primal Origin Primordial Chaos Talismans were worth it. But he needed to kill the Noble Star to make it worthwhile. Watching Su Xing's damned evil suppressing gem bamboo Langya, Great Saint Starkiller inwardly seethed. Inyo, what are you still dawdling for? Quickly dispatch Wu Song and dispose of the Noble Star. In the center of the array, Great Saint Starkiller currently had ample time to calm himself. Seeing that Guan Ying unexpectedly still was entangled with Wu Sio, his heart was somewhat infuriated. At this moment, Great Saint Starkiller actually wanted to look at just what Wu Song's background was. Flipping open the birth treasure outline, The record that appeared on the surface left Great Saint Starkiller dumbstruck. What? No contract? How could it be that there is no contract? Just who are you? Great Saint Starkiller stared at Su Xing in shock. At this man who made the harmed Star Pilgrim address him as Lord Husband. Was this bastard a monster? He did not contract the noble star, did not contract the harmed star, yet this motherfucker was this intimate with two heavenly stars. On that side, hearing Great Saint Starkiller's envious cry, Great Blade Guan Ying no longer neglected Wu Xiao. Little sister, you have not signed a contract? Guan Ying was astonished. Why? To even be hell-bent on addressing that man as Lord Husband, compared to this general, are you not an even greater disgrace, Wu Song? Guan Ying was furious. Her hand lifted the blade and fell, a cold light manifesting. A wound deep enough to show bone appeared on Wu Xiao's body, yet the pilgrim's cool elegance did not diminish. The noble star can allow your servant to follow Lord Husband into evil smiting hall. Can your master achieve the same? Wu Xiao waved her sword. On the basis of the current Su Xing exhibiting bold conduct and deeds inside evil smiting hall, Wu Xiao recognized he was her Lord Husband without question, and compared to Great Saint Starkiller wholeheartedly obsessed with killing the noble star to obtain the red ink iron certificate, the superior of the two was obvious. On this point, Guan Ying was incapable of refuting, yet she was somewhat indignant. That man's graceful words and flowery speech are merely exploiting you. In the previous generations of star duels, Wu Song, have you ever heard of a star master that dared not pursue fame and riches? This is merely the trend of the star duels. If your man is not extremely stupid, then he has other plans. Wu Xiao showed an expression of, elder sister, how lamentable. Without any reply, Wu Xiao did not at all think further of taking an advantage with words. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus was wielded with all her strength. Several hundred threads of sword chi like scattered snow lotus petals covered the skies and earth and pounced towards brave Star Guan Ying. Each flower petal bore a ray of black light, a mournful black light. These sword chi became flower petals that seemingly were raindrops, sprinkling forth in enormous torrents from the sword tip. After colliding with each other, the fragments became even smaller fragments, but each droplet was still deadly as before. In the case there was a cut, perhaps even steel would be cut in two. Under these sorts of circumstances, it was possible for even Guan Ying to be injured enough to be defeated because of a careless gap. However, Great Blade was experienced, unparalleled in battle. With a 4-star destined weapon in hand, the most supreme divine weapon at the current phase, any 1-star general would shudder. The entire earth shuddered with a storm. The petals completely fragmented. Wu Xiao grit her teeth. Her forehead overflowed with cold sweat, raising the shuddering double-ended sword with an even quicker speed. A sword chi in unbroken succession instantly constructed an inescapable net. Not only did this control Guan Ying's entire blade chi, it also sealed shut her path of retreat. Truly worthy of the harmed star. A top-notch martial general. To be able to be so unruffled before a 4-star destined weapon, locked in a stalemate for so long, but that should end soon. After an expression of praise, there was endless exclamation. Guan Ying's pupils were cool, yet in a split second, the flower petals fluttering across the whole sky nevertheless suddenly all shattered. A sharp sword chi whimpered and became a dissipating wind, and a frost-fair blade completely slashed them apart. What? Wu Xiao simply did not dare believe her own eyes, but before she could question this, the blade chi directly attacked her. A sharp airflow already was at her ear. The pilgrim relied on her intuition and immediately sidestepped. Her hair nevertheless still had been cut, and her back scorched with pain. Figures crisscrossed. Wu Xiao spat a mouthful of blood, sent flying by a slash. Her figure drew a beautiful arc. In midair, Wu Xiao completely lost the ability to resist. I will expose that man's hypocritical mask. In the star duels, there is only victory or defeat. Guan Ying was ruthless. She jumped high, and the great blade directly slashed at Wu Xiao's abdomen. At the level of not having signed a contract, this time, Wu Xiao already was unable to escape slash, but someone said, no. A figure dove out, and a clinging fire star domain sword to stop the great blade. The originally already critical weapon directly faced the 4-star purple brilliant moon slashing blade and immediately broke. Su Xing was unable to help a heavenly spirit astral treasure becoming pieces. He seized this obstruction to immediately bring Wu Xiao out of danger, but Guanyin already was like a ferocious lion. With a powerful intimidating air, the blade again used an azure dragon slash. Directly at Su Xing, Wu Xiao seized Su Xing and blocked Guanying's azure dragon slash herself. A powerful force directly sent them to the ground. The world was immediately silent. Guanying descended to the ground, already beginning to pant. Battling with Wu Song for a long time was extremely taxing on her. The blood on that wound on her stomach had already coagulated, but the hand gripping her weapon already slightly trembled. Wu Xiao knelt on the ground, the double-ended sword Noble Frost Demonic Lotus stuck into the ground. Propping herself up on one arm, her whole body's clothes were ripped apart with countless cuts, with blood already dyeing those white clothes red. Let alone that Guanying's star energy was beginning to decline, that Azure Dragon Slash's might was greatly diminished. Otherwise, in that moment, Wu Xiao feared she would not have got up. However, even so, anyone with eyes could see the harm star was already an arrow at the end of its path. Xiao leave. The road afterwards is still quite long. Su Xing patted her shoulder, giving Wu Xiao some pills to ingest. Hearing the deeper meaning in these words, Wu Xiao's lips curled with a weak curve. Leave? Have you finally decided to disguise yourself no longer? Guanying gripped her blade with both hands. Su Xing feared that even if he wanted to leave, it perhaps would not be so easy. Ingu, nicely done, now quickly kill Chai Jin. Great Seton Starkiller coldly said. Guanying calmly glanced at Great Saint Starkiller, pretending to not hear him. Her gaze returned to Su Xing. You are called Su Xing, correct? Do you dare to make a bet with this general? This general heard your words just now. Interesting. Nowadays, star masters that cannot abandon their partners are honestly rare to see. This general is very curious whether your words are false or true. Guanying said. So what if it's true, so what if it's false? Your judgment is not worth a mention to me. Su Xing sneered. Guanying laughed. To speak to this general like this general will have faith that you are indeed special. Ingu, you Great Saint Starkiller furrowed his brow. Young master, please permit Inger to retain that sliver of a martial general's honor. Guanying calmly said, her eyes very gentle enough to make Great Saint Starkiller even somewhat dissatisfied. But Great Saint Starkiller uttered no sound. He nodded. Many thanks to young master. Your current conduct and deeds indeed earn this general's praise, but this general has always disdained ignorant loyalty. Perhaps you have some method that can break through this general's blade, but this general can guarantee that this price is your wife. This general's little sister that has morality high as the heavens will become your starfall. Guanying's words completely lacked pretense. An imposing air that was on the edge stirred about upon the brave star's body. Just what do you want to say? Su Xing asked. This general will give you a chance. Make this general genuinely and sincerely admire you as a man that can support heaven and earth. Guanying curled her lips. Envy surfaced from the bottom of Great Saint Starkiller's heart. Guanying had never said these words to him before. What chance? Use your strength to withstand 3 strokes of this general's blade. After 3 slashes, if you still can stand, this general shall let you all go. Inger. Great Saint Starkiller was stunned. Absolutely not. Chai Ling firmly refused. Elder sister truly can crack a joke. You are the brave star Guanxing, a top-notch martial general, and with a 4-star destined weapon in your hands. For you to make a star master go suffer 3 of your slashes, this basically is a gargantuan joke. Chai Ling's expression was ice-cold. This general merely asks you, do you dare take this upon yourself? Guanying only looked at Su Xing. Su Xing, do not acquiesce. You cannot. Gong Kaiwei and Wu Xiao simultaneously uttered. Su Xing laughed, but then he was immediately cold. What a grand yet empty 3 slashes. You are the grand brave star. The ranked 5th Guanxing unexpectedly wants a star master to face 3 of your slashes. Let alone me, even supercluster ancestors cannot endure a single one. Guan Ying smiled as if she had wanted to see Su Xing answer as such. No matter how much more you feign righteousness, when it truly came to your turn, your true identity will be revealed in the end. Even if this chance was any easier, you would not be willing to face danger with your body. Wusong, do you see? This is your lord husband. This is the true face of the Star Master. The past has always been like this. There have never been changes. But Guan Sheng's smile immediately disappeared. She saw that man suddenly rush at her empty-handed, but his intimidating air was like the fierce tiger of a mountain, unexcelled in all the world. Put away that opinionated pity of yours. Don't use 3, go ahead and use 30, 300 slashes even. Your servant shall keep you company. Guan Ying's expression moved. This general actually wants to see with what virtue or capability can make Wu Xiao recognize you as her husband. Great blade, Guan Sheng shouted, slashing without the least bit of hesitation. A biting cold wind ran through the frost-fair blade. The aggression of this first slash was unparalleled in its tyranny. Besides Chai Ling, everyone was dumb as a wooden chicken. Wu Xiao suddenly understood. Su Xing only wanted to stall for time to allow her to leave Evil's smiting hall. Is your servant truly to flee? Wu Xiao faintly sighed. To a first-rate martial 4-star general that had never signed a contract like Wu Xiao, fleeing was something that did not need to be mentioned at all, particularly after they became complete star generals. The moment the star duels began already drew closer. Fleeing was equal to death. At that moment, Su Xing wanted to have her leave Evil's smiting hall. Besides not being able to leave Lord Husband behind, there was another important reason for this. She would rather fight to the death, and she was unwilling to drift without purpose. This was the creed of a stubborn star general. At this moment, seeing Su Xing surprisingly truly won a battle the brave star, besides being heartbroken, Wu Xiao was distressed. She could not deny it. The moment that resolute back was submerged by Guan Sheng's purple brilliant moon-slashing blade, Wu Xiao truly treated Su Xing as the man other than the Star Maiden sisters that was worth believing in. When Su Xing did this, the difficult decision was far from as easy as some business deal. Is there only escape? Wu Xiao faintly sighed. She had been convinced by this man. There is no need to do this. A warm as jade voice came into Wu Xiao's ear. The noble star little whirlwind Chai Jin walked to her side, gracefully dressed. Her face wore a calm expression. Wu Xiao's brow wrinkled, not understanding why the noble star would say this. Su Xing, doing this is for your sake, Chai Ling. Wu Xiao was somewhat angry at the noble star little whirlwind's seeming carefreeness. Yes, it is very vivid in this palace's memory to have seen a never-before-seen star master. Chai Ling spoke bluntly, but you do not need to escape from Evil's smiting hall. This palace thinks that you, the harmed star, must not at all be reconciled to leave like this? Right in front of your lord husband? The queen's graceful words were of direct and true intent, her thoughts suddenly difficult to understand. Wu Xiao had no choice but to concede that Chai Ling was indeed sharp in assessing people. Then do not flee, calmly watch your lord husband. He shall bring you victory. Chai Ling faintly smiled. This time, not only Wu Xiao, but also the Gong Kaiwei to the side was baffled and confused. Was she joking? Su Xing was but confronting the ranked 5th top-notch Marshal General Brave Star with his bare hands. Anyone else would not believe Su Xing could bring about victory. Let alone that she was with a 4-star destined weapon, unrivaled of the 5th stage. Even if Su Xing was at peak state, to face Guan Sheng like this was a dead end, absolutely without a second possibility. Believe in this palace. Although the brave star has contracted with the great saint star killer of the netherworld, in her bones still is the spirit of a martial general. Su Xing is truly an adorably cunning man, using that sort of method to stir Guan Sheng's soul. How can the brave star use full power? Chai Jin smiled. Just this can achieve victory? Gong Caiwei's tone had worry that even she herself was not clear about. It cannot. Chai Ling's manner simply made the two very furious. But it can allow little sister Xiao obtain victory. Chai Ling said. Her words left the two at a loss. Just why are you saying this? Riches and honor come from danger, but a defeat in a millennium. Chai Ling calmly said, her tone containing an incomprehensible mystery. What is the meaning of this? Chai Ling explained, this is what this palace specially sought out Shui to calculate in coming to Evil's Smiting Hall. Shui? And who else is there? The ranked 53rd meets star divine mathematician Jiang Jing. 2. Chai Ling elegantly opened the golden thread feather fan. So it turned out that when she came to Evil's Smiting Hall originally, although Chai Ling and Su Xing had ingested the together to hell, her heart always was not too at ease, knowing that the noble star had on her the most supreme treasure that all of Liangshan coveted, the red ink iron certificate. Who would not want this gold plate that avoided death? In the case she entered Evil's Smiting Hall, she was incapable of leaving for 3 days. If she was locked onto, Chai Ling was dead without debt. Chai Ling was somewhat worried Su Xing would kill her in Evil's Smiting Hall and use the red ink iron certificate afterwards to avoid a calamity. Before this, regarding Star Masters, Little Whirlwind was like the majority of the sisters and maintained absolute doubt and contempt. So before she entered Evil's Smiting Hall, she specially sought out the 53rd ranked meet star divine mathematician Jiang Jing. Diving mathematician Jiang Jing was a spiritual energy star general, degenerate in martial arts, but she had an extremely incredible ability. This was divine calculation. She would use a hymn that could calculate the good and bad luck of a situation. The hymn Jiang Jing gave Chai Ling was, riches and honor come from danger, but a defeat in a millennium. Any way this is heard, this must be a barely satisfactory hymn? Gongkao is it? Indeed, that defeat in a millennium was uncomfortable any way it was heard. Chai Jin for nearly 1,000 years had been placed outside of the star duels. This defeat certainly was not talking about her, right? However, as for this hymn's first part, Chai Ling had already recognized it. Riches and honor come from danger. The meaning was not that she could go this time if she could obtain riches and honors. In brief, as for the defeat in a millennium, it actually made Chai Ling feel confused. It was just that since she could capture a star beast, Chai Ling did not concern herself with this defeat in a millennium. Following Wu Xiao entering together with her, Chai Ling then gradually felt that this defeat in a millennium was not necessarily speaking about herself. The harmed star pilgrim Wu Song also was an exceedingly cool and elegant star general for 1,000 years. Perhaps it was related to her. Therefore, until Wu Xiao addressed Su Xing as Lord Husband, only then did Chai Ling finally understood who this part of the hymn referred to. But what relation does this have to do with your servant defeating Guansheng? Wu Xiao was not coy about this matter of naturally recognizing Su Xing as her Lord Husband. There is, and the link is very big. Since this is defeat in a millennium, to be clear, this man is very important to you, and since you recognize him as Lord Husband, then it should be expected that you ought to know what the critical point is. Chai Ling smiled. Wu Xiao was stunned. Direct and true intent, thoughts suddenly difficult to understand. This is the true pilgrim Wu Song. Even if you do not want to sign a contract, could it be that watching your Lord Husband go die for you, confronting a terrifying star general, Wu Song, do you still wish to escape? Chai Ling continued smile. Gong Kaiwei blankly looked at Su Xing, somewhat in disbelief. What the hell has he been doing these days? Nevertheless, the moment Su Xing entered barehanded into the range of Guan Ying's great blade, even Great Saint Starkiller was greatly frightened. This #1 star master of the Azure Dragon territory was not an idiot, was he? To unexpectedly dare to come into close contact with a star general. Guan Ying wore praise for him. The frost fair blade in her hand hardly hesitated. The intimidating air of the first slash was scathing in power, absolutely tyrannical. Before she could react, a purple blade net cut everything to pieces, sustaining the full power strike of brave star Great Blade Guan Ying without any tears. It was without any holes, but at the same time, it was without any elegance. Simple, fatal, and completely without any way out. The concentrated air was ripped apart by the sword chi that the sword light stirred, releasing an indistinct whistling sound. The blade's edge that was nearly in reach was like bloodthirsty fang. Guan Ying curled the corner of her mouth, however, that smile immediately soured. In her bright pupils, Su Xing's tranquil expression appeared much more brilliant than her tyrannical blade light. That simple expression ignored the terrible circumstances he was about to face. In the next second, Su Xing flickered, allowing the wildly fierce blade chi to ruthlessly slash at his stomach. His silhouette flashed, a fist waved, and purple true chi suddenly appeared without flourish like a sharp blade, shooting directly forward. Instantly, the time between the two of them had seemingly froze. Guan Ying was calm as a well without ripples. This slash was far from ended. Flinging her arm, suddenly, woman and weapon shot forward together. In the next instant, following the movements of this slash, a blade wind reaching several hundred meters in width violently shot out of the frost fair blade, directly pouncing at Su Xing, not giving him any chance to run. Su Xing's fists launched Purple Mansion Immortal Thunder. The frantic purple thunder and blade chi rolled together and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the next instant, Guan Ying retracted the great blade, and the figure retaining a frightening blade chi once again slashed. This time, the sharp edge did not stop at all as it broke through Su Xing's defenses. His silhouette shattered. A projection. Guan Ying was stunned. Mirror image talisman. Su Xing appeared behind her, his 5 fingers tearing over like a dragon claw. But what sort of character was the ranked 5th Brave Star? Extremely quickly, she turned her body, her mighty shadow just like a phantom. Against the matchless 5th stage Guan Ying, relying on a talisman the likes of the mirror image talisman was just laughable. In the next second, the purple brilliant moon slashing blade already slashed at Su Xing. The great blade attacked with a speed incapable of being grasped by the naked eye. The sword light was nearly invisible, and the two fought all over the entire area. From time to time, the air was swept over by sharp slashes, and then it immediately let out a miserable ripping sound. Not only that, but the earth, stones, air and even the dark clouds in the skies were rolled into the berserk sword wind, successively dropping from on high and becoming shreds. The sparks illuminating her objective and the dizzying darkness of the afterimages she brought were dazzling against the sky. The Su Xing whose body was in the middle of the saber light seemed to be pinned by the pressure of a mountain. Guan Ying's first slash made him taste fear. A prick of cold light suddenly carved past his eyes, and there was a crisp noise. At last, Guan Ying's first slash declared its end. What a fraud this was, Su Xing thought. Although this slash passed by no more than a hair's breadth, only by placing himself within did he feel that this single slash was even more powerful than 100 slashes. Then, Chai Ling happened to say, "Defeat in a millennium." Guan Ying's hearing was superb, catching on to the words Chai Ling spoke, yet she nevertheless showed a disapproving sternness. Not bad. To unexpectedly be capable of avoiding this general's first slash, this general thus admits that you are a man. Guan Ying's praise came from the bottom of her heart. Tisk, shouldn't a woman be admitting that someone is a man at some other place? For example, in bed. Su Xing certainly was not accepting her praise. To call that slash a haunting by Sadako was just about right. Guan Ying laughed aloud, her straightforwardness making the flirty Su Xing somewhat embarrassed. Why don't you ask your own wife about this point? Guan Ying nodded. Seeing that Wu Xiao had not escaped, Su Xing was inwardly worried. However, hearing Chai Ling's words also made his mind perplexed. You will not be so fortunate anymore with the second slash. This general will cut you down without mercy. Guan Ying expressionlessly said. Oh, Su Xing smiled, silent. The skies were even more gloomy, and the dark clouds seemingly were about to overwhelm Evil's smiting hull. The air was silent. After a rumbling boom, it seemingly set off this dead-end atmosphere, and a majestic heavy rain poured down. In the rain, the two were completely motionless. The rainwater followed along their hair, flowed down their brows, dripped across their foreheads, with their eyes, blurred their lines of sight. The blood on Guan Ying's body was washed clean away by the rainwater, and the injuries on Su Xing's body were likewise washed thoroughly. The rainwater was still cut apart by fighting intent. Guan Ying shouted. The second slash approached. On the other side of the rain, that outstanding frost-fair blade distantly pointed at his chest. The unparalleled tyranny seemed to want to cut him into two halves. Guan Ying did not lie. The second was absolutely unordinary. The blade chi on her body was just like a blossoming lotus flower. In the downpour, in his line of sight, the lotus flower petal blade chi carved out a beautiful scene within the rainwater. Both gorgeous and dangerous. Evil smiting Hall rumbled into a surging frenzy. Su Xing shouted, and his whole body burned with purple true chi. In the downpour, a glaring purple light then rushed out. A light that pressed towards the great blade. Seeing that Su Xing used purple chi to cover himself, Guan Ying did not show any mercy at all. The intimidating air of the frost-fair blade in her hand did not diminish in the slightest. Directly pushing aside the ice-cold line, the rainwater seemed to be drawn apart. Purple cloud true star mixed with the rainwater and poured out. Bursting open with a scorching temperature in the torrential rain, Guan Ying's blade slashed. The blade chi was still swift and severe enough to make anyone despair. There was an enormous boom. This slash seemingly completely shattered all of the rain within a range of 100 meters, an imposing aura that honestly made people feel powerless. A silhouette leisurely dodged by a hair's breadth. All of a sudden rushing right in front of her, Su Xing's cleverness far exceeded Guan Ying's expectations. This man's fighting ability was not ordinary in sword cultivation or martial cultivation, and Guan Ying inwardly entertained thoughts of praise. Guan Ying's second slash naturally would not be that superficial. The purple brilliant moon slashing blade's blade chi wound around, suddenly ascending. At the instant he attacked at close range, the purple chi akin to a weapon that Su Xing concentrated all his power into suddenly broke free of his body and simultaneously pounced forth. The purple cloud was scathing, its magic everywhere. Guan Ying's eyes nevertheless still retained a glaring light. Under a situation faster than anyone could react, she raised what was in her hand, and the blade chi did not hesitate at all to slash and destroy the purple clouds in the air. The purple cloud true star filling the skies seemed fierce, yet they could not withstand Guan Ying's strike. Scattered smoke and ash. But a silhouette suddenly drew closer. Su Xing's leg kicked towards Guan Ying's chin, a direct strike of power that inclined upwards. Guan Ying held the great blade out horizontally, blocking this powerful kick, severely jolting the armor over whole body. Blade chi broke apart, and Guan Ying even took a half step back. Perhaps no one would have believed it, that brave star great blade Guan Ying, a first-rate martial general unexpectedly would be forced back a half step under a star master's attack. Although it was only a half step, from Su Xing's perspective, it nevertheless was a big step. Just who are you? Guan Ying's tone was grave. Has the second slash ended? Su Xing said. Could it be that this person has Lin Chang's innate skill? Guan Ying's tone was ruminating. She smiled. The third slash has already begun. What? That silent rainwater in Su Xing's surroundings all of a sudden madly surged and rolled. The blade chi blossomed like a lotus flower, transforming into endless fragments that wound about Su Xing. The rain was struck to pieces. Great Saint Starkiller was delighted. He thought he could see the opponent's death. But the rain withdrew. Although Su Xing was bruised to nearly kneeling, he was still alive. How can this be? A cool and elegant woman had already appeared in front of Su Xing. She currently embraced Su Xing, and from the jade on her forehead was released a barrier that enshrouded them, dissolving Guan Ying's finishing blow that was tyrannical to the point of despair. So incredible. As expected, Guan Ying was abnormal to death. Wu Xiao was fighting against this sort of person? Su Xing thought in a daze. Guan Ying's third blade honestly was too far outside his expectations. By means of the heavy rain's cover, the already at the end of his rope Su Xing basically had no way to sense it. If it was not for someone saving him, perhaps it would have been dangerous just now. Lord Husband, It is better to leave this to your servant. Wu Xiao's words seemed to have her allure. Xiao, why don't you escape? Su Xing sighed. Wu Xiao fixed her gaze on Su Xing abruptly. She lowered her head and kissed his lips. Immediately, a light more brilliant than lightning entered his brain. Su Xing was stunned, feeling the kiss tender to the depths planted upon his lips. This kiss stunned everyone. Only Chai Ling slightly smiled. A drunken red dyed Wu Xiao's cheeks. She was seemingly intoxicated, her eyes hazy. The downpour was incapable of sobering her. Guanning did not make a move, only calmly watching Wu Xiao, as if she was waiting for an opponent. Great Saint Starkiller was incredulous. Hastily, he flipped open the birth treasure outline and was surprised and startled. It was as if time, unchanged since immemorial, had been broken. The surging rainwater on Wu Xiao made her suddenly become incomparably tender the moment she stood. The harm's star pilgrim stroked the temperature on her lips, her expression seemingly drunk, her footsteps wobbly. Wu Song, you have found a man. This general acknowledges you. She turned around, a streak of sword chi breaking open. Thinking of leaving? Wu Xiao's voice had a somewhat peculiar charm, as if she and the previous harm star were different people. If it could be said that the Wu Xiao before was cool and elegant, at this moment, she was alluring. The rainwater that fell on her snow-white clothes was evaporated by a scorching star energy. This feeling was very strange. You are drunk. Guan Ying turned her head. Just allow your servant to fight you. Wu Xiao hooked on a smile that confused all things. Suddenly, her legs stepped on rainwater, shaking up splashes. The roaring was torn to shreds. Wu Xiao rushed over, as if she was a ferocious tiger. In the next instant, her hand clenched the double-ended sword. Her hands parted, and Noble Frost Demonic Lotus became two swords, one surpassing frost, one pitch black as ink. Double swords? Guan Ying was stunned. The pilgrim and the swords already became a bolt of lightning, shooting directly towards brave star Guan Ying. The matchless fifth stage could make precise predictions about enemy attacks and could automatically create a way to resist, but this realm was not at all unrivaled. At least in terms of Star General's battle strength, sometimes it required both sides to be facing death to bring about a change in the situation. Guan Ying's pupils contracted. The lovely Wu Xiao already drew closer. When Guan Ying thought that she could evade the first attack, Wu Xiao's second sword already approached. No. The somewhat drunk attacks of Wu Xiao's double swords became something incomprehensible and outside of common sense, unfathomable. The matchless fifth stage realm completely lost its use. Guan Ying could not perceive Wu Xiao's attack pattern. Danger, she smelled danger. Her whole body hurt, and Guan Ying nearly knelt. Hey, just this is too much? Your servant has not yet enjoyed herself. Wu Xiao seemed very excited. Her eyes were extremely lovely, and that voice was even more alluring than a fox's. Su Xing was flabbergasted. Guan Ying curled the corner of her mouth with difficulty. Wu Xiao's change clearly exceeded her expectations, truly putting her into a sorry situation. Too sorry a situation. It seems the legendary drunken Wu Song is indeed interesting. Guan Ying snorted, her intimidating aura releasing. Could it be a new dark rank technique, or perhaps it is even an earth rank technique? Guan Ying's guess was not without reason. You dare insult your servant's lord husband. Today your servant wants you to pay with your life. Wu Xiao licked her lips, her whole body red as blood. This honestly was too charming. This made a martial general as imposing as Guan Ying somewhat unsure about her completely opposite change. Guan Ying noticed that if she herself continued like this, she basically would not have any chance of victory in battle. Or put another way, straight to the point, this was the very first time Guan Ying had confronted Wu Song's wild drunken state. It really was very outlandish. Come on, let your servant see where the brave star's soul of the warrior is. Wu Xiao's declaration did not have any intentions of fooling around. Guan Ying curled the corner of her lips. Conceding defeat was not her personality. The next second, both sides once again rushed forward. Wu Xiao's double swords randomly changed directions as she approached. Sometimes they were plainly obvious in front of her, but when they drew close, they were then on her flanks. When Guan Ying defended against the side attacks, Wu Xiao's chilly attack then appeared from behind. She appeared drunk, but her attacks nevertheless were actually incomparably sober. Every launched attack would draw a long and hard arc in the air, and then directly stab forth with the force of 1,000 caddies like a spear. Guan Ying even was disinclined to go guess the trajectory of the attacks. So long as she could place her great blade at the appropriate position, she definitely could wait until her attack. Guan Ying knew anyways that in confronting the drunken and completely in shambles harmed Star Pilgrim, guessing was an extremely laughable thing. Afterwards, there was an exciting slam, one where force met with force, where crisp white blade edges knocked against each other. Every time metal clashed, sparks flew. Even Guan Ying shuddered in recoil at the enormous reaction, but she did not have much time, for the next slam brought an even deeper and fiercer power drew closer, bursting open with even more dazzling fireworks. Guan Ying was waiting. Despite her arm gradually turning numb from the impacts of the weapon in her hand, her mind still maintained an increasingly calm attitude, completely changing places with Wu Xiao. The brave star was very clear, and Wu Xiao's odd battle state required enormous consumption of strength. It would end before long. Guan Ying was self-confident that she had the advantage in terms of star energy. As long as she patiently waited, she could rapidly take the upper hand. The rest was only a matter of time. Waiting was the best offense. For there was only this method of waiting for Wu Xiao to break free of this odd state and settle this battle herself. A searing pain ran through her skin. Guan Ying already no longer thought about the injuries on her body, convinced they definitely were terrifying. Are you not counterattacking? Wu Xiao's attacks were increasingly swift beyond compare. Each strike already reached the stage of leaving afterimages. Guan Ying's hardened armor burst forth everywhere under the double sword's tips. Guan Ying was infuriated, and the great blade did not leave any leeway. Extreme Realm. Great Saint Starkiller saw Wu Xiao's abnormal status and hastily flipped open the birth treasure outline. When he saw the realm upon the birth treasure outline, Great Saint Starkiller was endlessly shocked. Extreme Realm. The super extreme realm that surpassed matchless. Although this was only first stage, this was nevertheless sufficient to contend against a 4-star destined weapon. How could this be happening? The corner of Wu Xiao's mouth rose with a sneer. Afterwards, with even fiercer stabs, she continued her assault, not even without half a thought of retreating. Her pupils burned with a glaring light. This was an expression Guan Ying had never seen before, both of longing and hatred, both bashful and indifferent. Guan Ying was very clear. The longing came from that man named Su Xing, the hatred from her. She neither feared nor dreaded it. Everything she felt had already been forgotten in the back of her head. The sole fear she could hear was only in those split-second heartbeats and the reckless sneers under sword slashes. There was no way to win. Guan Ying's heart for the first time had a sort of powerless feeling of reversal. Even if she had a 4-star destined weapon, she did not have the self-confidence to save herself. The specters were increasingly overlapped and then fading away en masse. In the eyes of an observer, Wu Xiao's seeming drunkenness was just like her walking before. Each step passed through Guan Ying's attacks and defenses. The brave star could only cling to life. Defeat was only a matter of time. What the hell is up with Xiao? Su Xing felt the remaining warmth upon his lips, swallowing hard at Wu Xiao's charm and allure. The downpour was blown apart. Could it be that you still do not realize it? Chai Ling gave a seeming smile. This is your and Wu Xiao's Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow skill. Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow skill. Su Xing was stunned. That was precisely it. Chai Ling nodded and grinned. Do not laugh laying drunk on battlefield. Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow skill? Su Xing showed considerable surprise. Mine and Xiao's? Who else? Little Whirlwind Chai Ling smiled with narrowed eyes. Could it be we signed a contract just now? Su Xing could still feel the lingering heat on his lips, an orchid fragrance assailing his nostrils. Wu Xiao's kiss was very beautiful, but Su Xing nevertheless did not feel that sort of feeling he had when signing contracts. His star crest did not twinkle, and a new crimson star had not appeared in the sky. Chai Ling smiled and did not reply. This sort of problem would be left to the person in question himself to be vexed about. The Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow skill is a move that can only be comprehended when a star general and someone else reach an incomparable realm of perfect understanding. This was not at all inside the limits of a contract. It could be done with any star cultivator, or even other sisters. Chai Ling warned. Su Xing suddenly understood. Although not signing a contract made Su Xing feel very regretful, Wu Xiao's voluntary kiss already made this no longer important. Su Xing fixed his gaze on the dance in the rain, on the slightly drunken Wu Xiao in the rain, and he already somewhat understood that kiss just now happened to be the reason why Wu Xiao was drunk at this time. Do not laugh laying drunk on battlefield. The intoxicated Wu Xiao was rather flirty. Could it be that was not a kiss contract just now? Gong Kaiwei was somewhat confused. In her knowledge, Wu Xiao kissing Su Xing just now was a scene that honestly was extremely like the highest form of contract between Star General and Star Master, the kiss contract. The kiss contract has a great deal of restrictions. Perhaps Su Xing's Star Generals already reached the limit, or perhaps Wu Xiao still has the last vestiges of a defensive line, or perhaps, there are too many perhaps, you can all go think about it yourselves. Chai Ling somewhat irresponsibly teased the riches and honor Persia that was in her bosom. The downpour broke open. Wu Xiao and Guan Ying's battle was even more out of the ordinary in ferocity. A powerful sword chi and blade chi crossed and bit at one another, pouncing in all directions, making Su Xing and the others hastily retreat. The downpour drenched evil smiting hull, yet it suddenly became warm at this moment. The flowing sprite-like lights of the 4-star purple brilliant moon slashing blade, the blade chi of which was cleansed by the rainwater, and the long time spent in battle already made Guan Ying considerably exhausted. When the great blade was already incapable of following Wu Xiao's figure, her attacks and defenses completely lacked sense. Noble Frost and Demonic Lotus, the pair of swords danced together, achieving the most gorgeous death movements. The intoxicated Wu Xiao, her expression charming, had her gait confused and messy, but even if it was a drunken Wu Xiao, her attacks nevertheless were smooth and easy, executed perfectly. Guan Ying basically had no way to persist. This was Wu Xiao's Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow skill. Do not laugh laying drunk on battlefield. Break! Her figure spun, and Wu Xiao's sword stabbed, piercing through with a cold trail of sword light. The sword's tip carved the raindrops into finer and smaller pieces. The blow seemingly landed. Guan Ying held her breath, barely dodging to the side, with the point brushing past her cheek. That snow-white cheek immediately showed a line of blood. Drops of crimson blood dribbled, and the sword punctured the top of a raindrop. It honestly was swift to the peak, and escaped by a hair's breadth. But Wu Xiao's other sword nevertheless at the same time stabbed, running through Guan Ying's thigh like a beast's fang. The brave star nearly fell to a knee. How could Guan Ying's dignity concede? She did everything she could to hack with the purple brilliant moon slashing blade, attempting to force back Wu Xiao. Wu Xiao's drunken and muddled charming cheeks drew an alluring smile. With a leisurely dodge, she brushed past the great blade, and then a demon appeared on Guan Ying's right side. Another sword wound appeared. The downpour washed away the fresh blood. Splashes of blood and rainwater blossomed at the same time in the air. Laying drunk on the battlefield, merrily chatting away. The next time, the double blades became twin dragons that crossed and attacked. Guan Ying was worthy of being named the top-notch martial general of the matchless fifth stave, to still be able to dodge again under such difficult circumstances, but this was the end of the road. The 4-star destined weapon already was incapable of locking onto Wu Xiao's drunken figure, to say nothing of the attacks. Sword chi crisscrossed, and a terrifying explosion seemingly boomed on the clash of metal. The flying raindroplets were full of stirring red. Guan Ying was stupefied. That thick astral treasure armor was full of cracks. With a rumble, it turned into countless fragments. The two sword chis of Snow White and Dark Knight burst out from her body. Guan Ying was incapable of believing the fact she was facing, that she of a 4-star destined weapon was defeated. Brave star of lost warrior spirit, your servant today has received your dignity. The spirit of the warrior, the spirit of the warrior. Guan Ying was taciturn. She closed her eyes. Wu Xiao completely did not hesitate to lift her hand and bring down her sword. Guan Ying immediately was slashed into the star nest. Great Saint Starkiller stared at the brave star Great Blade Guan Ying with a 4-star destined weapon unexpectedly be cut down by Wu Xiao, and his heart was incomparably shaken. His eyes were dazzled. Suddenly, Wu Xiao directly stepped into his Origin of the Universe Heavenly Cycle sword array with a single leap. That obviously airtight sword array was surprisingly nothing in the eyes of Wu Xiao, an idle stroll in the courtyard. Great Saint Starkiller's face greatly changed. Suddenly, a gloomy hiss resounded. The sword array boomed, and the heavenly cycle-changing holy sword's starlight concentrated, sprinkling down like a river. Following Great Saint Starkiller using a mysterious ability, his forehead sprouted twisting dragon horns, his whole body seemingly was draped in dark black dragon scales, and a pair of fleshy wings spread open. Great Saint Starkiller's face no longer was graceful and completely showed a terrifying sinister expression. A frantic black chi hovered. This happened to be a taboo power of Great Saint Starkiller's 8 Desolate's heavenly demon body, heavenly demon collapsing body. 2. In the case this ability was used, it would bring about extreme injury to the caster. Not only would cultivation be greatly set back, in addition, he would bear enormous pain after the fact. However, it was accordingly, and it could instantly allow the caster's speed, reactions, defense and power all reach a terrifying degree. Star generals would need to be slightly considerate of this sort of degree. The arrogant and self-important Great Saint Starkiller believed himself the paragon of the star duels. Cultivating this heavenly demon collapsing body, he naturally had never thought he would actually use it, but the very odd, ancient demon 7 kills steal. 3. The heavenly demon killing art of the supreme grade cultivation method was something he never thought he would use here and now. The heavenly demon collapsing body nevertheless became his greatest trump card. For the sake of the noble star's red ink iron certificate, Great Saint Starkiller could be said to be giving it his all. Great Saint Starkiller furiously roared, his surging power devastating the area of 100 li, and the downpour was terminated. Su Xing and the rest were blown into disarray. That nearly was a matter that happened in a mere instant. Chai Ling still maintained an astonished expression. Then she saw Great Saint Starkiller flap his wretched wings. Afterwards, Great Saint Starkiller seemed to be an existence that surpassed time and space in everyone's eyes, becoming a perfectly straight black light that descended right in front of Chai Ling. That warped face wore a greedy smile, a hand directly plunging for Chai Ling's heart. Even if Chai Ling's red ink iron certificate could save her life, the instant he grabbed hold of Chai Ling's heart, Great Saint Starkiller's heavenly demon collapsing body was sufficient to kill the little whirlwind 100 times. Perhaps it was too late to activate. Even Wu Xiao was slow a step. Just at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared right in front of her, stopping in front of him without hesitation. It was Su Xing. His back fiercely hurt, and an arm pierced through Su Xing's chest. The dripping blood made him unable to speak as Chai Ling looked at him, similarly speechless. Boom! The Great Saint Starkiller in heavenly demon collapsing body grabbed empty air. In a lightning-fast instant, Su Xing already hugged Chai Ling and narrowly escaped Great Saint Starkiller's attack. Roar! Great Saint Starkiller stared at Su Xing in surprise, not daring to believe such a thing had occurred, that a Star Master unexpectedly could be even faster than his heavenly demon collapsing body. Worthy of being called the Devil Palace's #1 Star Master. As expected, he is ugly enough to make people feel disgusted. The bloody hole that ran through his chest and dripping blood over his whole body did not count as anything. Compared to the pain of this body that made Su Xing shut an eye, that completely was pain that penetrated into his bone, painful enough to make tears emerge out the corner of his eye. It truly was painful enough to make him want to cry out. Naturally, it was chaotic tale escaped defiant of natural order. Instantly, even Chai Ling and Gong Kai-wei were dumbfounded. Su Xing unexpectedly had such a superb escape technique. Great Saint Starkiller furiously pounced over. Su Xing put his hands together. Langya flew out. The 12 clear light of the 12 flying swords stirred, becoming a green bolt of lightning. The black chi of Great Saint Starkiller in heavenly demon collapsing body feared it as if it were a tiger. The devil cultivation, ancient demons 7 kills steel, that Great Saint Starkiller originally cultivated was the Netherworld's supreme grade, labeled as a transforming star of annihilation grade devil art. For this reason, Liangshan continent circulated with the rumors of Great Saint Starkiller. This type of supreme grade devil art actually was not necessarily completely subdued by the evil suppressing clear light. It was a pity that Su Xing's cultivation did not lose out to him either. Pointing a finger, Langya flew up, spinning into a resplendent green light. They totally twisted in all directions. They formed an airtight, inescapable net. At this time, Wu Xiao also attacked. Great Saint Starkiller saw that in the end he had still ruined everything through a lack of effort. Not only did he give an extremely long scream at the sky, the green light submerged the black light. Thus, Great Saint Starkiller's presence could no longer be sensed in evil smiting hall. Thanks, Chai Ling somewhat could not come back to her senses. Thinking back to the danger just now made this Her Highness Queen, which had always been calm, break out into a cold sweat. Nearly, she had carelessly lost her life. What is there to thank? Since I promised you, I will complete our agreement. Su Xing said. That was not an ordinary escape technique just now? Is it harmful to you? Chai Ling knit her brow. Su Xing's wounds over his body appeared quite terrifying. It's still bearable. Su Xing smiled. Chai Ling was stunned, silent. Losing an enemy as powerful as Guan Ying, the heaven-earth dark yellow skill finally reached its limit. The red clouds on her white face gradually receded, and those feet stepping on lotus petals wobbled unsteadily. Su Xing promptly rushed over, catching the beauty against his chest. Wifey, are you all right? Su Xing asked. Wu Xiao groaned, red clouds rising. Let us first return, have Dao Quan come help treat your injuries. Chai Ling took out the evil smiting writ, no longer wishing to stay any longer in this place. Su Xing did not oppose. His gaze swept towards the taciturn Gong Kai-wei nearby. The things that happened to today honestly made this immortal hero princess unable to forget. Su Xing, this princess owes you her life. Later in the star duels, you can take it at any time. Gong Kai-wei said with a serious face. Su Xing shook his head. Careful, to be able to make Xiao finally recognize me, I still have to thank you. Chai Ling surreptitiously rolled her eyes. This man truly was very thoughtful. Don't I, wifey? Su Xing chuckled. Wu Xiao grunted, cutely directing away her line of sight. Gong Caiwei's eyes had some complexity. In the end, she nodded, not uttering a word. After Su Xing's group left, evil smiting hall recovered its tranquility. The skies were clear after a rain, and the black skies gave off a magnificent light. The air after a rain was full of the recovering scent of new life. At that sky, she stared. Gong Kai-wei deeply sighed. They are tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.